Daycare provider Deborah Lohmeyer is suing former client Lisa Volz for unpaid babysitting fees and harassment. Lisa is countersuing for the return of personal property, harassment, and emotional distress.
Order. All rise.
Yes, this is case number 87 on the calendar, the matter of Lohmeyer versus Volz. Has been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Ms. Lohmeyer, you claim two things. First, that the defendant owes you for child care, for taking care of her daughter. And that was part of a business arrangement you had with her.
Yes, ma'am.
And second, you claim that after that daycare was terminated, that she began a course of conduct that was harassment.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that she owes you nothing, that she has not harassed you, that every report that she made was accurate, and that she is counterclaiming, alleging that you have in fact harassed her through certain conduct and words that you uttered to her daughter. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you begin taking care of her daughter?
November 1st, 2000.
And what was the financial arrangement?
$4 an hour or $20 a day. Brittany was considered a drop-in.
A drop-in, what is
Yes.
that?
That means she wasn't a full-time child at the time.
And when did you terminate your daycare services?
I terminated her August 3rd, 2001.
Why?
She kept telling me she didn't have the money for me. Every time I called her 3 times and told her how much her payment was going to be.
How much did she owe you at that time?
$280, but she did pay on August 7th, $30. I had to beg for that $30.
What excuses would she make to you as to why she wasn't paying you?
Okay, on August 1st, when I first talked with her, she went frantic saying that she didn't have the money, that Social Security messed up her check, and that she called, and they said within 5 to 7 days that she would get her money. So August 7th, I called her again. She told me again, oh, Social Security said they put my check in someone else's account. And so I said, can you at least give me something towards your bill so I know that in faith you are going to pay me?
She's never said that. Shh.
I'm sorry. And then...
How many days a week did her daughter come to you for daycare?
She would come off and on. In July, we had a lot of field trips that we were doing, and Miss Walsh didn't want her daughter missing any of it. And plus she had...
I'm going to get to you.
I'm sorry. And plus she had summer school and things like that.
Okay. Now, after August of 2001, can you describe to me what you term as harassment?
She's called the police on me.
How many times?
I have a report 3 times. Your Honor?
I'm going to get to you.
I'm sorry.
Tell me about the police reports.
Okay, the first time police was called on me was on October 24th. It was in regards to a smoke or fog machine. And it's a fog machine. It makes smoke. And my husband would play with it, and the kids enjoyed seeing the smoke and whatever. All of a sudden, I believe it was at 4:30, I see the police coming up, fire department and the policeman and so forth, and a parent walked up. The policeman comes in, he goes, well, we got a call that there's a fire in your house. I said, no, sir. I go, there's a smoke machine. And then Miss Walsh comes out, hands full like this, and she's laughing, and she goes, I thought your house was on fire. And I said, you know what, you need to mind your own business and get back into your home.
I thought her house was on fire, ma'am.
What words don't you understand when I said I will get to you?
Okay. Then the police officer went back to Miss Walsh's home. Next thing you know, the police officer comes back to my home and claims that Miss Walsh said that me and my husband were rolling in the dirt fighting and having a domestic dispute. I said, how can that be, Your Honor? I have 9 children in my daycare. I have a parent coming in.
What was the next call?
The next call was on the 15th. The police officer came up and said that he had gotten a call from Miss Volz saying that I used profanity in front of a child that did not come to my daycare. This child was not in my daycare. This child was one of her friends, the one I wouldn't hire. And on that same day, Miss Volz also called state licensing and told them I had used profanity in front of a child. The first one that the state came to, they found it inconclusive. The second time they came, they found it unfounded. Last complaint was state, profanity in front of children. And at the time, there was no children in my daycare.
Now, since the defendant's daughter ceased coming to your daycare, other than the $30 that she gave you towards the $280 bill, has she given you any money?
No, ma'am. She did send me on October 2nd. I did receive a $10 money order, and along with the letter, I have the letter.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am. Right here, ma'am. I did receive this letter. I held on to it. I took a full copy of the money order, and I held it to see if Miss Walsh would keep to her word, which on December 15th she did not. I mailed the money order along with a letter stating that she needs to pay me in full for my services. I have the letters here, Your Honor, certified and so forth. Since Miss Volz's phones have been disconnected and she wasn't returning any letters I had sent to her, I seen her outside. All I did, Your Honor, on the day that she claimed I harassed her, that sent the police to me, I did ask her, Lisa, you have my money? No. Didn't think so. I walked back into my house. Next thing you know, police are knocking on my door because she claims I was harassing her. I gave her every opportunity. I even told her that she needs to pay me or I'll take her to small claims court. Or come talk to me. I'm not going to do nothing to her. She come talk, because in my letters, I asked her in my letters, please come either call me or come talk to me so we can make a payment arrangement.
Okay. Now I'll hear from you.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize.
At the time your daughter terminated daycare with the plaintiff, you had an outstanding bill of $280. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You gave her $30.
Yes, I did.
Leaving a balance of $250.
Yes, ma'am.
So now you can explain to me why you believe that you are not responsible for this $250.
Okay, well, I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and I was not getting my complete checks for Social Security. So I had a choice of getting my daughter her clothes and her things for school and giving her some money, or not getting my daughter the things she needed for school and giving her all the money. So I was backed into a corner. I didn't know what to do. And then she did also, too, when my daughter came home and had told me that she had called me and told me my 10-year-old daughter what she thought of me and said that I was,
That's not true.
Shh. And said that her sister was lucky, which is my other daughter here. She got out when she did because she doesn't deserve a mother like me because I'm an unfit mother. I confronted her, Slowmeyer, with this, and she said she did say this over the phone.
When? Just a second.
In August.
When did you had that discussion with her in August?
No, ma'am.
Shh.
I terminated daycare in July, and I gave her 2-week notice. And I discussed it with Miss Slowmeyer. Yes, ma'am, I did. And she said she did. And my daughter came home. She even told her grandmother this. And my mom went into total, she was shocked.
Explain why you don't owe her for
Because
the time
I feel
she paid
the time-
Shh. I'm speaking.
I'm sorry.
Explain why you don't owe her for the time she took care of your daughter.
For the slander she did to me.
She didn't do anything to you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You sent us something in September, well after you alleged this terrible thing that happened with your daughter.
Yes,
So
Mother.
at that point, hey, you acknowledged that you owed her the money.
I do owe her the money.
All right, make up a baloney story for me.
And later today,
Let me start off saying that I love my daughter. I'm proud of her, but I think she's going to keep it real with this because I have no idea what this is about.
He's lying.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Daycare provider Deborah Lohmeyer says former client Lisa Vose owes for unpaid babysitting fees. Lisa says Deborah badmouthed her to her 10-year-old daughter.
Listen to me very carefully.
Yes.
You sent her money.
Yes.
You wrote her a letter. In the letter, you say, this is an attempt to pay a debt to you, and that was dated October 2nd.
Yes, ma'am.
Well after August, well after
Yes.
July. You sent us something in September, well after July, and well after August. You say, I can't make any more of a payment that I'm paying you, but on the 10th of each month, I will attempt to make payments of $10. That was well after you alleged this terrible thing that happened with your daughter.
Well,
terrible thing that happened with your daughter.
Yes,
So
Mother.
at that point, at that point, you acknowledged that you owed her the money.
Yes, ma'am.
So you owe her the money.
I do owe her the money.
You-
I-
All right.
You're
Quiet.
After
Just said, at that point, I owe you the money. You do.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't make up a baloney story for me.
No, but I believe that after she stood on her porch day after day after day, yelling and screaming at
Not
me
true.
with kids in my front yard playing and cussing at me, that was the time I did call the police. And I did call the fire department because I thought her house was on fire. I apologized for, I wasn't being smart aleck. I saw smoke coming out. You would think of fire. So I did call the police, and I wasn't being smirky about it. And they came up, and she says, no, it's my smoke machine, so I walked back in my house. That's all I did. And I called the police on her because of all the times that she was out there screaming. My 10-year-old heard it. My other daughter heard it. Her husband heard it. My neighbor across the street heard it. Her 5-year-old son heard it.
All
It
because
was
you owe her some money.
all just over money.
All
And-
because you owe her some money, which you should have paid. Are you employed?
No, ma'am, I'm on disability.
What's the nature of your disability?
I'm a social anxiety disorder.
Fine. Then why did your daughter need daycare?
Because sometimes I couldn't help her with her homework, and Deborah did help her with her work and did do well and with her daycare.
Are you telling me that your daughter was there so that she could be educated and do
No,
homework?
I helped
which-
her. She did help me, yes.
And she did?
Yes, ma'am.
And you
I
didn't pay her?
gratefully- Yes, I did. Every month up until the month I could not, which was the last month she was there.
All right. Now I'm going to get to your counterclaim, and I will do that quickly. Let me hear about your counterclaim.
Again, it was about her calling me. She threatened me to my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter. I didn't think it was right for her to do so. She also would stand on her front porch, scream and yell at me. My daughter's ADHD and epileptic. When she would call me this...
Miss Foltz.
Yes, ma'am.
What you're telling me is not actionable, nor is
Sorry?
the plaintiff's claim for harassment
I
actionable.
don't go out my front door. If I see her, I walk right back in my house. I don't
You should
have to go
have. You
outside.
should have paid her money, and then we wouldn't have had this trouble. That doesn't mean that you both acted appropriately as adults.
No, ma'am.
You probably did not. You probably said things to each other and did things to each other that were inappropriate. But it all stemmed from the fact that you had a debt that you did not pay. So your counterclaim is dismissed, and I'm entering a judgment in favor of the plaintiff for $250. That's all.
Apologize to excuse you, may step out.
Hey, honey.
Miss Ross is nothing but a liar.
People like Deborah Lohmeyer do not deserve to have a daycare like that.
And she can rip a person off with whatever she has. She will.
My daughter can't even play in her own yard because she's afraid she'll come out and do something to her.
And she cannot tell the truth. She does not know the truth.
For 7 years, she's hated me, and I try to make amends.
It was in her imagination.
Is this so wrong?
Just be honest.
Machinist Tim Gray is suing his ex-girlfriend, banquet server Lisa Ashpole, for a series of unpaid loans. Lisa says the money was an attempt to win her love.
Order, all rise. Now, this is case number 156 on the calendar in the matter of Gray versus Ashpole. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Gray, you and the defendant dated briefly while she was separated from her husband. And according to your complaint, during that time you made 2 loans to her. The first loan was for an attorney, and the second was to catch up on a mortgage payment. The defendant says you never made any loans to her, but did give her money. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Now, when did you meet her?
It was during bowling season.
I don't know when bowling season is, sir.
About 2001.
Excuse me?
In the fall.
Can you get any closer by, say, month?
Okay, August, how's that?
August of 2001.
Yes, and we were just friends up at the bowling alley, sitting there talking and, joking around. Eventually, right around St. Patrick's Day.
Shh.
All right.
We're going to have a conversation here, which means
Okay.
you'll talk and then I'll talk.
Okay.
Did you meet her at bowling?
She was a waitress, I was a bowler. Yes.
When did you separate from your husband?
In June.
So you were separated at the time that you met the plaintiff, is that right?
No, we were friends when I was at work. So I knew him while I was still married, yes.
But in August of 2001 is when you started to date him?
No.
When?
May of 2001.
And when did you separate from your husband?
In June.
Shh. When was this loan for a lawyer?
Roughly August 2001.
Is that right?
July of 2001.
Now I'd like you to tell me the circumstances surrounding that, sir. You're not very good at dates. Let's see if you're better at the substantive part of it.
I'm the lawyer. She come up to me and she was having trouble and she wanted a divorce from her husband.
But you were dating at that time.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I had a good lawyer friend that I referred her to, and he cut her a deal and gave her half of the retainer fee. So I gave her the $750 in cash so she could go get things taken care of. And at that point, I made her understand it was still a loan to her, not a gift.
How did you make that clear, sir?
Just by talking and told her what I
I
said.
want you to tell me
and
what
then
you said and what she said.
she told me she would pay me back within a reasonable amount of time.
She said she would pay you back.
Yes, she did.
Now, what's your version of the lawyer story?
The lawyer's story is that he had
Look at me.
this great friend that worked on his divorce case, and I needed to get this started. And he gave me the money.
Now, what did you say to him and what did he say to you?
Let me give you the money. Let me help you. Let me give you the money to get it. Otherwise, where are you going to be? You're not going to have an attorney. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at you. You're not going to have an attorney without any money. Let me help you. There was nothing ever about any loan.
Well, why would he?
Any
why would-
payback.
Why would he give you that money? Why would you not expect to
He wanted
pay
my
it back?
divorce.
You wanted a divorce.
Well, I think actually he wanted it probably more than I did.
No. No. Why would you think that you should not pay him back?
Because I didn't, at that particular time, I did not have the means to pay him back, and he knew that. I had told him that, and then this is also about the mortgage.
So you didn't get to the mortgage.
I know, but I knew that I have 3 children. I'm not getting child support. I'm a working mom. I'm not going to give up my home. At one point, I even had 3 jobs to support my means.
Okay. Now tell me about the mortgage payments, sir.
Well, she was
That's the second
behind.
loan.
She was behind 3 months in her mortgage.
How did you know that?
She told me.
Where were you when she told you that?
We were probably just sitting in her bedroom.
Go ahead.
And she said she was 3 months behind. And she asked if I could help her out. And I said, yes, I can. But again, I loaned her the money. And I made the payments.
Now we'll hear you.
I have never asked him to give me money. I have never asked him to loan me money. I never asked him for anything. We might have been sitting on my bed talking, and I was venting because I was very upset. I was behind. I was not getting any help from my husband that had moved out. But I had never asked him for anything.
You told him that you were 3 months behind in your mortgage payment. How did he pay the mortgage payment?
Actually, I was paying bills, writing things out.
On a bid.
Because I had it out, right. I was paying my other bills that I could afford to pay. I could not afford to pay this. He took the statement out of my hand, picked up the phone, and made a check over the phone to pay the mortgage. And I was telling him,
Is that
no,
right, sir? You paid
please
it over
do
the
not
phone?
do that.
I made it by Visa, yes.
You made it by Visa over the phone.
Yes.
And I kept saying, please do not do that. Because if I would have had anything to do with this, I would have at least made him make sure that he paid the right amount. Because he didn't pay the whole thing.
How much was the mortgage?
$3,000.
Your Honor, I'd like to also say some other things that I have here.
Go ahead.
After my husband had left, we've never lived together, but Tim never went home. He asked me if he was getting low on his check, should he reorder some and put them in my address. I told him no, it was too soon. I did not think that this was a good idea. To go open my mailbox 2 weeks later to find a box of checks in his name only in my address. He has also bought siding to my shed that I told him to return.
So?
I also fixed a lot of stuff in her house. Shortly after her husband
You
left.
cared for her.
Oh, yes. I care very much.
Did you follow through with your divorce?
It's in the works right
What
now.
happened to the two of you? Just curious.
Well, she couldn't handle my kids. My kids are very outspoken. They tell it as it is, and that's the way I raised
They
them.
lie. Just a second.
Raised-
Maybe they're just rude.
No, this is the way we were. We just, told it as this. And she just couldn't handle the way they were.
How old are your children?
I got 4, 22, 21, 19, and 16. And, I love them dearly. And she couldn't handle it, so she, went her way a little while. Before I knew that, she was starting to date another guy from the bar. Past I heard that she was back with her husband again, from what I heard, and here I am.
Is that true?
No, it's not.
You heard wrong.
Yep, okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was very manipulative in what she did, a lot of things.
That's not what you told me.
But I don't loan that type of money without.
Yes, you do. You do if you're in love.
And later today,
Mr. Bridges, what date did they take the computer home?
Forgive me. I'm a little nervous. I apologize.
Don't be nervous. I don't need litigants on Tuesdays.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tim Gray says ex-girlfriend Lisa Ashpole owes for a loan to retain a divorce attorney and a separate loan to pay her mortgage. Lisa says Tim was attempting to buy her love.
Mr. Gray,
Yes.
I am usually not predisposed to finding that monies paid under these circumstances are gifts. I'm usually predisposed to find that even under these circumstances, there is some obligation to repay money. Because if I find that one person is trying to get over on another, I think there's a certain inequity there. If you care for her more than she cares for you, and she's using that and is sort of bilking you for money, I think that that's an immoral thing. And that shouldn't happen. I don't get the sense of that here, sir. I really don't. What I do is sense, Mr. Gray, that you cared for her. You wanted her not to be stressed. You knew she was hardworking, and she was trying to make ends meet. She wasn't getting much money from her husband, the father of these children, and you wanted to help her because you cared for her. You had checks printed with her address. You planned on moving in to her home. You planned on being a family together. So I don't believe that under those circumstances you would have said to her, this is a loan.
But
I don't believe that that happened, sir. I believe that when she was sitting on the bed and being very unhappy because she had all of this mounting debt, you, in a very magnanimous way, like a hero, got up, went to the phone, called your Visa, and said, I want you to pay this bill.
that wasn't the way it happened.
I think it probably was, Mr. Gray.
She was very manipulative in what she did a lot of things on.
That may be true, sir. That's not what you told me
But I
before.
don't loan that type of money without.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
You do if you're in love. You do if you're in love. You say, I want us to be together, and I want us to have a future together, and I don't want you to be stressed, and I want to show you that I can help take care of you, and that's what I'm going to do. And I believe that's what you did, Mr. Gray. And while my rulings usually do not go this way, I don't believe she was being manipulative. I believe that you were being in love and reacting appropriately, and unfortunately it didn't work out.
Maybe
You say
I
it was
was.
because of your kids. Maybe it was. But certainly, I don't believe she was being manipulative. I think that in the time that you were together, I think that she probably cared for you. Is that true?
Well, she cared, but she also agreed that she would pay me back.
I don't believe that, Mr. Gray. Your case is dismissed.
Audience are excused. You may step out.
They're just outspoken.
I don't have a problem with the outspokenness because I can be very outspoken as well.
Lied through her way and got her way out of it again.
His 16-year-old slapped my 6-year-old and left a big welt on his buttocks. Yeah.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Estaba versus Lupo. Step forward, please.
21-year-old accountant Nicole Hostava is suing her ex-fiancé, 26-year-old mechanic Christopher Lupo, for his share of a wedding that never happened.
Mrs. Staba, you and the defendant have been engaged to be married. And according to your complaint, you broke the engagement for whatever reason, and you had an agreement with the defendant that you were each going to contribute to the wedding.
Correct.
You put down certain deposits on things for the wedding, and when the engagement was broken, the defendant refused to pay you half of the deposits,
Yes.
which was your agreement. In addition, you purchased a wedding dress that you claimed that you stored or left at the defendant's mother's home that he refuses to return to you. Mr. Lupo says that you did have an agreement that you were going to share the costs of the wedding, correct?
Yes, correct.
But when you broke the engagement, you kept everything. I don't know what everything is. And in addition, you kept the engagement ring. So
Correct.
he's not paying for anything, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so you really want the engagement ring back, right?
Yeah. Yes.
You're a quick learner. Did you want your dog?
No, she could keep it. Just the point, like, if I wanted to take it back, she wouldn't have gave it to me anyway, but, she can keep it.
Mr. Lupo, do you want your dog? The answer is no, she could keep the dog.
She could keep the dog.
But you want your personal items back
Yes.
and the engagement ring.
Yes.
Okay, do you have his personal items? It's not an answer.
I do have some of his clothes at the
Well,
house.
tell me, what do you have?
Maybe some sweatpants. I mean, it's
Do you
really
have a
nothing.
jacket?
I didn't see the leather jacket. I did look for it, and I didn't find it.
Now, where's the engagement ring?
I have the engagement ring. I told him I'll give it back to him. I have no problem giving it back to him as long as I get the money for from the deposits. But I did pay $300 towards the engagement ring, and I have that also.
Did she pay some money towards the engagement ring, Mr. Lupo?
Yes, she did.
How much was the ring?
$2,700, $2,500.
I'm trying to resolve this, Mr. Lupo, and I don't want you to. I don't want you to think that this is an interview for The Sopranos. Do you understand? It is not. It is not. So we're going to try to behave like this is a courtroom, and this is a serious piece of business.
She has the receipts.
Mr. Lupo, do you understand what I'm saying to you, sir?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do, because I'm sure that you don't talk the way you're talking to me if you go and you're talking to a priest. Do you understand? You understand? You try to act respectfully, which is exactly what I expect. I expect you to act as if you would talk. Strike that. I expect you to talk as if you were talking to a doctor who just told you that he thought you had a terminal illness. Okay? Does that settle it down for you?
Yes.
Good. Perfect. Now, how much was the engagement ring, sir?
It was around $2,700.
Is that correct?
I wasn't there when he bought it.
Fine. Is it a nice ring? Do you have it with you?
I don't have it with me, no.
Fine. $2,700. And she gave you $300 towards the ring?
Yeah, because she wanted to change the diamond.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yes. Next time you get engaged, sir, don't let your fiancé give you anything towards the ring. It's tacky, especially when you're spending so much for the ring.
Well, I thought she would have been happy with the diamond I gave her, but she wanted to change it. So.
That should have been something that gave you a ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling. Okay. So far we're down to $2,400 that the ring was worth. Now, how much were the deposits that you put down?
Half of it is $2,100.
Okay, $2,100.
$2,110.
And does your mother have her wedding dress?
I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea.
I'm sure she has it. If that's where you put the wedding dress, right, you gave it to his mother.
I left it at his house because I figured it would be better kept there.
So you have to get the wedding dress back. Do you understand? You're going to get the engagement ring back. Because we're going to resolve this very fast. Because clearly, you two folks are not in love anymore, right? Well, at least if you are still in love, you're going to start at ground zero so that you can start building on this lovely relationship again if you so choose. Once you get back the engagement ring, you don't want to give it to anybody else, so you're going to sell it. Then you'll have some money to give her back for the deposits. Is that reasonable?
That's reasonable.
There you go. Look how happy you are. Now, you're going to look very, very hard for his personal property. You have some sweaters that belong to him. He's looking for his jacket. He wants his jacket back in addition to the engagement ring. Clear?
Yes.
Now, you are going to get your $2,100 24 hours after he gets his clothes and his engagement ring. Do you understand?
Yes.
You're going to give her the $2,100 soon
As soon as I get my stuff, she can have it. No problem.
and you're going to get your stuff 5 days from today. 6 days from today, she gets her $2,100.
Sounds good.
Happy? Happy?
Can I just ask one question, Your Honor?
Yes.
What about the $300 that was put towards the ring? I didn't include that with the...
No, just a second.
Oh, okay.
You're absolutely right. Because he's getting it back. So we have to add that on to the $2,100.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Sounds fair.
By the way, just for my own interest, why did you put $300 towards the ring? Is it true you wanted a different stone?
We changed the diamond.
You wanted a different diamond. Not we changed the diamond. He doesn't know anything about diamonds. Trust me, he knows nothing about diamonds.
It looked nice.
It looked nice. It looked nice. You wanted a different diamond,
Yes.
right? And he agreed.
Yes.
Fine. Then you agreed. Nice guy. So $2,400. What else?
My records, my DJ.
Everything that belongs to him.
I'll give him everything back.
You give
I
him
don't have a
everything
problem
back
with that.
because one day after he gets everything back, you
I'll
get your
get my
money.
money, exactly.
Otherwise, you don't get your money. Right? Right? So now he's going to get everything back. Goodbye. Good luck. Have a happy life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
As long as she gives my stuff back, I got no problem paying her money.
He wasn't living up to any of the agreements. He would tell her, I'll pay her, and then he wouldn't come through.
Hopefully work things out. I don't know, maybe, in the future.
Well, if he had feelings for me, he wouldn't have cheated on me at his friend's bachelor party.
I guess we were both immature at the time. You know what I mean?
There wasn't any way I could have done it on my own. I needed Judge Judy's help.
Factory worker John Goro is suing his ex-girlfriend, laundromat attendant Janice Berezowski, for damage to his car caused by her 10-year-old son, Justin. Janice says Justin was trying to protect her from a drunk John.
Order? Come to order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 123 on the calendar in the matter of Garel versus Berezowski. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young man, have a seat, please.
Mr. Gorel, you and the defendant have known each other, according to what I've read, for many years.
Yes, ma'am.
It is your claim that the defendant is responsible for damage that her 10-year-old son did to your car.
Yes.
And tell me when this incident occurred and where it happened.
This incident occurred 5602
Yes?
in front of her house while Justin was working on his bicycle.
You went to her house?
Yes, I did.
In your car?
Yes, I did.
What did you go there for?
To see her.
So you pulled up into the driveway or in front of
Or
her?
in front of the house.
Pulled up in front of the house, and what happened?
Jan got into the passenger side. We sat in the car for a few minutes, and I said, well, hey, let's go up to the store. I wanted to go up to the store. And I cranked the engine up.
And she said, okay, she was going to go.
She was going to go with me. And
No, I
Justin
didn't say-
asked,
Shh, just-
Justin asked, where are you going, Ma? And she told me, nowhere. So I shut the car down. But I turned around and I asked her again. I says, come on, well, let's just go up to the store. So I started the car back up. I proceeded maybe about a foot. This is when Justin ran up to the car with a bike rim, overloaded it onto the windshield. I have pictures.
What do you mean
of it.
overloaded it?
Well, he smashed the window out.
Okay.
I also have pictures of the air conditioning vent before and after, and what he had done with the wrench.
Why do you think he was so upset, Mr. Garrell?
Because the mother pampers him too much. Wherever she goes, he's got to go, like the little Bo Peep lost her sheep, you know.
Well, who else was home with him at the time?
Her second oldest son, Nicholas, was home.
All right, you want to tell me your version of these events?
Yes, I went into the car. I had no shoes on. I left the door open, the car door open. I never closed the door.
That car
Justin
door
asked
closed.
me.
Don't interrupt her.
Justin asked me, Mom, you going somewhere? I said, no, I am not going anywhere. And then Justin responded, my mom's not going anywhere. And then Justin came into the car, pulling me on my lap, saying, come on, my mom doesn't want to go. She said she's not going anywhere. That is when John backhanded him like this to his chest. John proceeded to go a foot about his fever out of the car. Then I was yelling at John, and John stopped the car. Justin got out. I got out. Then John came out of the car and was upset with Justin because Justin did not want me to go, and I didn't want to go. Justin was afraid for me to go. And John hit him on the shoulder then. Justin then went to throw the bike rim, because he was changing his tire, at John. Not at the car, but it did hit the car.
So you're telling me that the plaintiff put his hands on your son?
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't. If it was true that it happened, that's something that you would have indicated in here. Let me tell you, in case you forgot what you swore to in your answer. You said, Justin was upset because he thought John was forcing me to leave and John was drunk. Justin was trying to get me out of the car. When John pulled away, John narrowly missed running over Justin's feet. That's when Justin threw the bike rim that cracked John's windshield. Nowhere in this statement do you say that he got out of the car and put his hands on your son, which any mother would say. So when I ask you a question, you may be in the right and you may not be responsible for what your son did. But if you lie to me, then I'll never know. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. So let's start again, and let's try to make the stories consistent.
Okay, I left the door open. Justin asked me if I was going somewhere. I said, no, I'm not going anywhere. And then Justin said, my mom's not going anywhere. John did, though, push him toward on his chest. He did. And Justin was pulling on me.
You were in the car at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
He was in the car at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
So he didn't get out of the car and hit him on the shoulder?
This was in the beginning.
He didn't get out of the car and hit him on the shoulder?
Not at that present time, no.
No, right.
And then, after John had stopped, Justin was out of the car. John did get out of the car and go to the lawn and hit Justin on his shoulder. He did.
Did you ever hit the child?
No, ma'am, I did not.
I don't believe that he hit him.
May I speak, ma'am?
Yes.
Well, after Justin broke the windshield, I sat there with, I'm astounded. My windshield's broke.
Where were you when the windshield was broken?
I was sitting on the driver's side with both doors closed.
And where was she sitting?
Right alongside me, it's a bucket seat.
So she was actually sitting there?
Yes.
When he hit the windshield?
Yes.
And what happened? What did Justin say after he cracked the windshield?
Next thing I know, I look over and Justin's sticking a wrench into the air mat. And I said, that's enough. I jumped out of the car. But I went towards Justin. But when I looked and seen that her oldest son was standing there, I says, no. I'll just go and call the police. I went home, which I have a police report. And it says that the mother didn't do anything.
No, she didn't.
She didn't do anything.
Justin, stand up next to your mother. You're 10 years old?
Yes,
Why did you crack his windshield?
because he had hit me in the car.
He hit you? How did he hit you in the car?
He had reached over and hit me
Where did he hit you?
in my chest,
You mean he pushed you? That's why you broke his windshield?
and then I hit my head on the window.
Sit down. Before this thing escalated into a major confrontation with your son, why didn't you just get out of the car?
He asked me if he could speak with me.
What was he speaking to you about?
He wanted me to go up to the store with him first. He said, and then we can discuss matters, because we don't get along that well. And he's always calling Justin vulgar names.
And you had no right to be with him, madam, if he's calling your child vulgar names. Were you drinking that day too?
No.
Were you drinking that day?
Yes.
Was she drinking that day?
No.
What are you doing behind the wheel of a car drinking?
I wasn't drinking in the car.
You had been drinking. What were you doing driving a car, having had things to drink?
I had a few beers, Your Honor.
Had no reason to get into the car.
But I was capable of driving the car, which I know it was wrong.
You say.
Yes, ma'am.
You say. Have you ever been drunk in front of her child before?
Yes.
Has there ever been any incident of domestic violence between the two of you where you've been drinking?
I'd say no.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
His behavior in the past has not been the kind of behavior that you want to expose your children to. And you continue to expose them to him because if he wasn't drinking on that day, there's always tomorrow. You got me?
And later today,
All the wires to the electrical things in my room were cut.
You were angry.
About what?
About what? About being evicted from the apartment.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Gorel says his ex-girlfriend's son, 10-year-old Justin Berezowski, smashed out his windshield. Justin says he retaliated after John hit him.
Mr. Gorel, I believe that you are at least partially responsible for the atmosphere that was created on that day. You have a 10-year-old child who has seen you in a state where you are intoxicated. He's probably seen some instance of, if not real violence between the two of you, words that were exchanged that were not nice. And then you come over to the house. But clearly, his desire not to have his mother leave with you, he tries to act like a protective man of the house. That doesn't mean that you are solely responsible, because I think his mother bears some of this responsibility. Because despite the fact that he says he has been intoxicated in front of you, intoxicated in front of your son, you continue to socialize with him.
You're right.
Right. And your son is outside, and you too know, or you should know as a mother, that your son has witnessed things that a 10-year-old should not witness. Right?
That's correct.
Okay. So,
would you please listen to this, Your Honor?
No.
I have
Please,
something else
it's
to say,
very
Your Honor.
important.
Listen to me. You think that you're not partially responsible?
No, I never said that.
Well, good. That's what I'm saying to you. The damage that we're talking about is $500. You're partially responsible. Put your hand down, sir. You're not paying good attention. You're not getting the whole picture. I get the picture. She likes to have a social relationship with you, even though the two of you together may not do the right thing all the time in front of this 10-year-old child, and the 10-year-old child is reacting to past history.
Can I say something, please?
Yes.
All I did, when he had called me, I asked him if he had been drinking, and he said no.
So, what does that have to do with what I just said to you? His behavior in the past has not been the kind of behavior that you want to expose your children to. And you have. And you continue to expose them to him, because if he wasn't drinking on that day, there's always tomorrow. You got me?
Yes, ma'am.
You got me? You have exposed your children to things that they should not have been exposed to. And if your son is reacting to that, your son is reacting, then you're partially responsible. He's partially responsible. But he's not his child. He's your child. So he bears half the cost. Suing for $500, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $250. You pay the rest. That's all.
Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't think I should have had to pay anything, because he was provoked in it.
Takes two to tango.
Stay alone if you encounter men like this.
Real estate student Serena Catway is suing her sister, floral designer Suzanne Tyler, for the return of her car and an assault.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 290 on the calendar in the matter of Cantway versus Tyler. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Cadway, the defendant is your sister. Yes. According to your complaints, she has a car that belongs to you that she refuses to return. And at some point in a dispute over the use of that car, your sister assaulted you. Your sister says that the car is hers, you gave it to her, and that she never laid a hand on you. If anything, she was trying to protect you from yourself. So, Ms. Cadway, tell me how it came to be that your sister actually had possession of your car, because clearly the car is in her possession.
Yes. Last year, July 30th of last year, we decided to write up an agreement. I needed to borrow some money. I was having financial difficulties due to a personal situation, and we were going to write up the financial agreement that she was going to loan me the money and use the car. There were other circumstances behind it that she needed help.
Listen to me. Relax. You're going to have a turn to speak. Do you understand? So, sometime last year, you were going to write up an agreement.
We did write up an agreement.
Can I see it, please? Now, when did you write up this agreement?
7/30/01.
And what happened? Signed this agreement that you would let her use your 1991 Toyota Tercel and keep it as collateral for $600 loan. You say the loan never came about?
No, the loan never came about.
So, what happened next?
Well, a couple of months went by. We had talked about it a little bit. The situation was good for her at that point because the car that she had been driving she sold because it was unsafe. She did help me watch my kids, and it was a safe car for her to be able to drive around in. I did have another vehicle at the time.
Where had you gotten this car from?
My mother gave me this car.
When?
Back in 1995.
And you had another car?
At the time that my sister was using mine, yes.
What kind of car did you have?
1996 Camaro.
So what happened a year later?
Well, we had had a few discussions about the car. She was perfectly aware of the situation, that the car was to be used by her, not owned by her. She knew.
Don't tell me what she knew.
Okay, well, as far as my understanding, she knew.
Just don't tell me what she knew.
In February of the following year, I told her that my Camaro is going to have to go on filing bankruptcy. Well, something happened to the Camaro prior to them repoing it on the bankruptcy anyway, but either way, it was going to go. I told her I have to have the vehicle back. We discussed being able to work out terms of sharing the vehicle so that neither one of us would be without a car.
Let me ask you this question, Ms. Cantway. There came a time when you signed over the pink slip to the car to your sister.
Yeah.
When was that?
I think that was probably about a month later, maybe.
A month later when? A month later in?
From the time that we signed the agreement.
So at the end of August?
Yes.
Now, could you explain to me why you signed over the pink slip to your
sister? Because at the time, I did not have a driver's license. In order to insure the vehicle, it was extremely expensive. The insurance
What do you mean you didn't have a driver's license? You told me that you had a...
Yeah, I had a car, but it doesn't mean I drove it.
You told me that you had another car that you were driving.
I didn't drive it. I had another car.
Why weren't you driving it?
I didn't have a license.
Why not?
I made a mistake. Something I had to pay for. Has nothing to do with the situation of why I don't have my Tercel now.
If it has anything to do with drinking, it has to do with the situation, because your sister says part of the problem was you're driving at the same time, and that the altercation that you had that resulted in you say you're getting assaulted had to do with her trying to protect you and your children. So what I'm asking you is, you said you'd made a mistake that had anything to do with DUI that you received.
It did have to do with the DUI.
Okay. So at the time that you gave her the pink slip for the car, that allowed her to put the car in her name.
For insurance purposes.
No. No. That's prima facie evidence of a gift. If you turn over your pink slip, it says that you are now the owner of the car.
I thought I was getting a loan.
But you didn't get the loan.
I didn't get a loan. I gave her time to give me the money. She's supposedly getting a settlement. I needed the money to pay my attorney. She never got a settlement. I never got any money. So I was without my vehicle and without a loan.
So are you telling me, but for the fact that this transaction never took place, you would have sold her your car for $600?
No, collateral.
Well, let us say that she never gave you the money.
Which never happened.
You never took your collateral back because you had already
I tried.
Right.
I tried.
Okay, now let's move on. Let's move on to this assault that you allege.
July 4th, my sister I knew was going to the Baptist church with my mother for the fireworks show, so I called and said that I was going to come and use the car in order to take my children to the fireworks. I received a phone call back that I'm not allowed to use the car unless I ask nicely. So I drove over to the house to find out what was wrong, what was going on. We ended up getting into an argument about the agreement, about the car. She grabbed her keys, grabbed her purse, and went down the stairs to get into the vehicle. I sat in the passenger seat and I turned it off. I said, "You're going to..."
Just a minute. She ran downstairs and you followed her.
I walked downstairs, followed her, yes.
Go ahead.
I turned off the ignition. As I did that, she reached over, grabbed my hand, scratched up my hand right here. I threw the keys out the window as kind of just a response to being grabbed. She started to claw at me. I threw up my hands, grabbed her wrists, and asked her to stop. "What are you doing?" is what I said.
Okay, Miss Tyler, I'll hear you.
When we did the agreement, I was the one that did that. I said, "Serena, I want to give you something for the car." She said, "Look, I'll sign over the pink slip. I really don't want the money." But I went ahead and did that anyway.
No, that's not what happened, Miss Tyler. Just pay careful attention to me. That's not what happened. Not unless you can show me that the pink slip to the car was signed over on July 30th.
This was signed over on September the 14th.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it wasn't signed over on July 30th. Well, let's get your story together.
Okay. So anyway.
Now let's start from the beginning so that you can hopefully get your story together properly. Your best defense is the truth. I want you to understand that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She got really belligerent with me and said something about my son who was brutally murdered 5 years ago. And she started punching on me, and then she threw the keys out the window.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Serena Cantway says she used her car as collateral for a loan from her sister, Suzanne Tyler. Serena says the loan never happened and Suzanne won't return the car. Serena also claims Suzanne assaulted her.
You signed this piece of paper.
Right.
You signed it.
Right.
This piece of paper says you're getting this car as collateral towards a loan for $600 in which I will repay her at $25 a month. That's what this says.
Oh, that is not the one. I don't have a copy of it.
Really? Oh, show this to her. I'm sorry.
I don't.
Show that to her, please. Do you have that?
This is not the one, Serena.
Oh, wait. Do you have?
No, I don't have a copy of this.
No, not. Do you have a copy of any agreement that you signed?
No.
Okay, but you never signed that.
No.
Good. Can I have it, please?
That is the agreement, Your Honor.
Okay. I
There is
don't know
no
that
other
at all.
agreement.
I don't know that at all. Go ahead.
So on September the 14th, my sister signed over the title of the car.
Tell me about the conversation that you had
I
with her.
did tell her I did want to give her some money for the car. This was before she signed this over. I said, I don't feel right about it. But she said, don't worry about it. Mom got the car for me, and it's like a family heirloom. I'm going to pass it down to you.
That's not true.
Okay. Can I see the picture?
I've never called the car a family heirloom.
Go ahead.
So then after this, I was always driving her kids around because she had 2 DUIs. So I was doing that for her. And then I think it was a few months after that, Serena had mentioned that she was behind on her Camaro payments. And so it was not too long after that she totaled the Camaro. And
I didn't total the Camaro.
Yes, you did, Serena.
Ms. Tyler, just talk to me.
She totaled the Camaro. She didn't have any insurance. The car was going to be repossessed. So she hid the car in the garage for 3 weeks. And she went down and she got an insurance company to insure the car. When her boyfriend got back from Spain, they went and they told the insurance company that he was the one that was driving it, so she wouldn't get in trouble because she didn't have a license. So
I was trying to bankruptcy. I'm sorry, but I was going to lose the car. I did not wreck it.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, okay. Then after this, it was like a few weeks after that, her and her girlfriend came up to the house.
You're talking about the incident in July?
No,
July
ma'am.
4th?
She's talking.
This was in the spring of 2002 when she wrecked the Camaro.
Okay, she wrecked the Camaro.
Right, and it was like 2 weeks after that, I was sitting on the front porch and her and a friend came over. And a friend of hers was outside talking to me, and Serena went in the house, and she said, you need to give the car back to Serena. And I said, what are you talking about?
And what did you do to her?
And I said,
Miss
what are you...
Cankway, I don't want to hear you.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
I said, what are you talking about? And she says, you need to give that car back to Serena. And I says, this is an agreement between me and Serena. It's really none of your business. And I asked her to leave. And then she got really belligerent with me and said something about my son who was brutally murdered 5 years ago. So I called the cops and asked her to please leave.
Who said that, to the friend?
Yeah, to her friend of hers.
Keep going.
So then I asked, Serena was there, and I came out. I said, Serena, I called the cops because I said, you got to get this woman off my property.
Okay.
So then I told Serena, I said, what is the deal with the car?
Don't interrupt her.
I'm not interrupting.
She didn't
I was raising
interrupt.
my hand.
No. She didn't interrupt you while you were testifying.
Yes.
When she did once, I told her to be quiet, and she waited. That's what I'm telling you. Do you understand?
Yes.
I don't have to say it again. It irritates me to be irritated.
I'm sorry to irritate.
Good.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Serena Cantway says she used her car as collateral for a loan from her sister, Suzanne Tyler. Serena says the loan never happened and Suzanne won't return the car. Serena also claims Suzanne assaulted her.
Keep going.
So then I confronted Serena because she was there, and I said, what is the deal with the car? What is this about this contract that you're talking about? And she says, well, I was using that against Scott in case he wanted to get his hands on the car. And I'm going, what are you talking about? And I want the car back after you get your settlement. And I'm thinking, and I told Serena, I says, well, Serena, I don't know why you...
Ms. Tyler, is she talking about?
Because I have a workman's comp settlement. I broke my neck, and I'm still recovering from that.
Would you tell me, please, what happened on the 4th of July of 2002?
Yes, Serena wanted to borrow the car, and she had borrowed the car 5 days in a row because I know she was out of vehicle, and I was trying to do the nice thing for her.
And you had your driver's license back at that time?
She did get it back, yeah. So, but during that week, I know this for a fact because she left the house and she drove the car twice drunk, and she let somebody else drive the car. So, and during that evening on the 3rd, I was sitting on the porch with family members. They were concerned. They said, you're going to have to not let Serena drive the car. So I said, well, I know this is going to be a problem. So the next day when she asked me to use the car, I said, honey, I got errands to run. I said, I'll try to arrange a ride for you, and we'll try to see what we can work out. Well, then she came over shortly after our conversation on the phone, extremely upset with me, yelling and screaming. I said, Serena, quit yelling at me. And then she brought up the contract, the $600. She kept it up, and I said, I've got to get away from here. So I grabbed my keys, and I began to go down the stairs. She followed me. She got in the car. She grabbed the keys. We were like this, and she started punching on me, and then she threw the keys out the window. And then when I waited, I had a second set of keys. When she went back upstairs, I got in the car, rolled up the windows, and I took off, and I went to my cousin's house. And I left town. I left town the following week because I got tired of the abuse, and I moved to Napa.
Ms. Cantway, I'm certainly hearing two diverse stories.
I see that, yeah.
My job is made very easy by the fact that neither of you dispute the fact that you signed over the pink slip to this car, not conditionally, not as a lien holder, but for all purposes to your sister. If you had signed it over to her and been a lien holder for $600, because that was the condition of giving it to her, that she would pay you $600 or give you $600, there would have been a lien on the car for $600.
Yeah.
But you did not. You signed it over so that she is now the owner of that car.
Yep.
So your lawsuit with regard to the return of the car is dismissed. With regard to the assault, since I find that this was her car and you had absolutely no right to get into her car, to pull the keys out of the ignition, to stop the car.
Your Honor,
I'm speaking. She says it's because you had either let someone else drive the car or family that I'm speaking, or people told her that you were driving the car while you were intoxicated. And if it's her car in her name, she is liable for anything that happens to the car. In any event, you had no right to get into the car, pull the ignition keys out, toss them out, and if she scratched your hand at the time that you were struggling over the car key, she has a right to do that.
Yes.
Because it's her car.
I had driven the car drunk, Your Honor.
No, it doesn't make any difference.
I took the dog to the vet to be put down, and I picked his daughter up from school.
Let's say you weren't driving the car drunk. You still have absolutely no right to get into her car and touch her property, and she has the right to use whatever force is necessary to get your hands off the ignition keys. And if she scratched your hand while she was doing it, she scratched your hand. That's it. I mean, it's certainly very sad
She neglected to mention to you what she did to the other girl who was supposedly so belligerent at her house. The other girl mentioned, why don't you give the vehicle back to Serena? It is her car. You know what she did to that girl? She grabbed her by the bottom of her neck and scratched her all the way up to her ears.
Now, if this person that you brought to the house said something to her about her child who was murdered,
No, they said nothing about that.
You were inside. You were inside. You were not outside.
I was outside.
No, I don't. Ms. Cantway, I don't believe a whole lot of what you're telling me. What I do believe is that you gave your sister your car because you had another car. You had no use to have for this second car. You had a newer car. I'm speaking. The newer car got repossessed. You said, I want my car back. She said, I'm not giving you your car back. She said, but I'll share it with you. I'll share it with you. You use it when you need it, and I'll use it when I need it. And then you had an argument.
No.
And you want a court to resolve it as a family dispute. I don't intend to do that. Case is dismissed. That's all.
All you guys do is step out.
He's got a lot of animosity to me, and it really hurts my feelings, and I wish he didn't have to come to this.
I just found out the blood's not thicker than water.
She was demanding and wanted it back, and it wasn't just going to work out that way for her this time.
According to her, I'm the spoiled one that gets her way all the time. Well, obviously not, huh?
Maybe somewhere down the road we can settle it.
All parties in the matter of Adams versus Harvard. Step forward, please.
17-year-old Brian Adams and his mother, Louise Adams, are suing 20-year-old clothing company owner Joe Harbert for damages to Brian's personal property after Joe threw him in a pool.
Mr. Harbert, who do you live with, sir?
I live with my parents right now.
How old are you?
20 years old.
Was it your intention to come into this courtroom, which, as you know, is a televised courtroom, and to tell the world out there that you're not wrapped too tight?
No. Why would I do that? I wouldn't.
I mean, I read the complaint and I read your answer. And your answer is so ludicrous that I wonder whether you told your parents you were coming today, whether they tried to discourage you.
I know.
This is the youth of America. I want you to listen to this. This is not going to take long. Young Mr. Adams over here, who is a minor, went to a pool party. I want you to listen to this carefully.
Your Honor.
Quiet! He went to a pool party. And he was standing around the pool. Somebody else had thrown, uncross your arms, had thrown Mr. Harbert into the pool. He got out of the pool, looked around, and he threw Mr. Adams into the pool. Now, Mr. Adams had his cell phone and the lock for his car and his shoes, and he's all dressed, and all those things were ruined. So he wants Mr. Harbert to pay for the things that got ruined. And I want to tell you what Mr. Harbert's defense is. He said when you go to a pool party, you get wet.
It's a cake party.
That's what he said. That's what he said. He said, and I know that he took time to write this in between his master's program. He said, when I climbed out, I pushed the two people who I thought pushed me in. One of them was Mr. Adams. Everyone was around the pool and they were getting wet. Most people ended up in the water. It was clear that if you were near the pool, you were going to get wet. If I hadn't pushed him in, someone else would have. It was a party. So I wanted to see what kind of an idiot would write that in an answer. Now I saw it. Can I have the receipts, please, of the damaged property?
Isn't it that same type of logic that if you're standing in a garage, that makes you a mechanic?
Or if you're standing in a garage, you're going to get hit by a car.
There you go.
How about that? Sir, if I were to ask you whether all of the items that are reflected in these bills was damaged, they were damaged as a result of being watered down when you were thrown in the pool, would your answer be yes?
Yeah. Wait, could you repeat it?
I said if I were to ask you whether these receipts that your mother has furnished me were the items that were damaged when you were thrown in the pool, would your answer be yes?
Yes.
That's better. Mr. Harbert, if I were to ask you whether you were lucid when you signed and swore to this answer.
I don't know what lucid means.
You don't know what lucid means?
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You know what I was watching the other night? Do you ever see when Jay Leno walks America?
Jaywalking.
Jaywalking, is that what it's called? And he talks to youth of America and asks them questions like, you know, who was buried in Grant's tomb? And they go, You ever seen that? You ever seen that? Charge him for the plaintiff in the amount of $356. That's all.
Party's our excuse. You may step out.
It wasn't a pool party, it was a keg party, dude. I mean, you drink, like, you pay money to go to a party and stand next to the pool, it's dumb.
He told me that you want to get the party started, but that's a stupid reason, and I didn't even know the guy.
It's dumb. He's a neighborhood guy, dude. We're all living in the same city, we're gonna party together, we're sure gonna see him again.
Obviously, you can tell the guy's a bum.
It's ridiculous.
Losers lose.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Andres versus Brazil. Step forward, please.
Brian Andres is suing his ex-fiancée, sales rep Trisha Brazil, for an unpaid loan for office equipment. Trisha is countersuing for the return of personal property, unpaid rent, and harassment.
All right, Mr. Andres, your lawsuit says that the defendant with whom you lived and you have a child with owes you money for a loan for office equipment that allowed her to work in the house.
Correct.
Equipment that you purchased, she used, when you separated, she took, and you want her to pay for it.
Correct.
The defendant says there was never a discussion of a loan for this office equipment. It was a way of her earning a living while you were together because you were incapacitated for a period of time. You were not working. She had to support both you and your son, the son that you share. She has a counterclaim, which is a whole bunch of nonsense, and Miss Brazil, let me deal with it right now, because I want to keep this case as clean as possible. You say that he took a camcorder of yours, that he owes you for rent during the time that he was incapacitated last year or the year before, that he said he would pay you for, and a chair. Okay? That's your counterclaim.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you that I think that's all a bunch of nonsense, and you never would have filed a counterclaim had he not sued you for this office equipment.
That's true. I'm desired to be in court, then I would have never. But
Absolutely right.
But part of what he's suing me for is the camcorder part of the...
I'm not interested. So let's understand each other. This isn't a tit for tat. He has a lawsuit. I'm going to get to his lawsuit. And I'm not worried about your chair and your camcorder and this old rent bill that he was supposed to pay you if he ever got better.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian Andres says ex-fiancée Trisha Brazil owes for an unpaid loan for office equipment.
That was your arrangement. You were a family, despite the fact that you didn't have a marriage license. You were operating as a family. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And at a time when you were injured, you discussed with the woman you were living with, the mother of your child, working from home. Is that right? Now take it from there.
It wasn't so much her simply working from home. She was working for a company and decided that she could work from home, be close with the baby, and that's what we talked. That's how the whole story got started. I looked at it. I had a large amount of money coming in from my 401k, and I said, well, we could do this. Since I am on disability, I had a very bad broken leg. What I was going to be able to do work-wise was really in question. I did warehouse work, and I taught karate on the
You had a
side.
very bad broken leg. And
Exactly.
You were incapacitated. Right. And you had
So
a baby home.
this wasn't simply an opportunity for her to work from home. The deal was she was going to work from home while I was on disability. She was going to teach me kind of tools of the trade so I could learn something new, so I'd have something to fall back on.
What kind of work were you doing?
I'm in marketing. I do graphic design work.
And you can do that on your computer at home?
Yes.
Okay, fine. When you broke your leg, is that right?
Correct.
Were you living together at the time?
Yes.
How long were you in the hospital?
Maybe 4 days, then I had to go to a rehabilitation hospital for another month.
And then you came home?
No.
And then where did you go?
I had to go to my mother's house. She has a 2-story home, and the bathrooms are upstairs. My mom's house was...
More convenient. So you stayed
Correct.
with your mom for how long?
Probably 2 to 3 months. And then I would go over to Trisha's house. I would stay the night with her. This is all when she was still pregnant with our child. And during the day when she went to work, she would drop me off back at my mother's house so I could...
Did she took care of you? You went over there, she picked you up, she took you back. Now after the baby was born, where did you live?
After the baby was born, I lived with Trisha.
Moved into her house?
Correct.
Okay. Were you ambulatory at that point?
Yeah, with a crutch.
With crutches?
Crutch, eventually a cane, yeah.
Okay, with crutches. Now the baby was born at that time.
In January, correct.
Who took care of the baby?
I did.
With your crutches?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Good for you. Okay, so explain this loan to me. So now I got office equipment that you was going to work from out of the house. How did the loan come about, Mr. Andres?
Our deal was she wanted to work from home. I was in a position where I can make that possible, and in return, I wanted to gain some type of knowledge from this. So that
So
it never happened. Time went on. She continued to use the equipment that I bought for her job that she was at. It never happened. In September, I ended up going back to work for a warehouse in our area. She kept working where she was at. Eventually left, and became self-employed.
Well, I don't see a loan, sir.
I bought the stuff, Your Honor. I have the copy of the cash.
So what?
That's the loan.
That's not a loan. That's not a loan, Mr. Andres. Where do you get a loan from that? You had a family. The family had to be supported. Needed, I gather, 2 people. You had disability and her work to do it. He said, great, you work from the house. I'm going to buy this equipment so you can work from the house. You'll teach me. Period. End of discussion. It didn't become a loan until you separated.
Your Honor, we had a deal. Deal. We had a deal. I was to learn something.
And you didn't learn anything. Whose fault is that? You went back to work. That is not a loan, Mr. Andres. That's not a loan. That's living together and planning a future that doesn't work out. That's not a loan. I understand from Miss Brazil, whose counterclaim I'm not even thinking about. Do you understand that?
No.
Well, I'm going to tell you. During what year do you claim that he owes you for rent?
The year of 2000, and then he paid rent intermittently during 2000 and part of 2001.
Okay, it's old, that's why. Because 2 years later, you don't wake up and say he owes me for rent in 2000. Because I know and you know that your counterclaim is nonsense. That you would never be here but for the fact of this nonsense about this equipment. Now, what I want to know is, she says that you didn't even bring up the issue of this equipment again until after she took you to court for child support.
That is not true.
Now, but one thing that amazed me, and I just want to find out whether I read it wrong. Are you currently under a child support order, Mr. Andres?
Yes, I am.
What is that order?
It's $38 a month.
That's what I read, $38 a month. What country do you live in?
The United States.
What state in this country?
California.
What county?
Stanislaus County.
What kind of work do you do?
Right now I'm not working. That's why it's $38 a month.
Why are you not working?
I've been looking for work, Your Honor.
Who's supporting you?
I'm staying at my mother's house.
That's nice. Collect cans, sir. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was a gift. It was planned that we would, have a life together.
I mean, I put out money not just for her future, but my future as well, and it never panned out.
I don't want to go to Florida. This isn't how I would solve something.
I'm out 5 grand. I shouldn't be.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Chandler versus Chapman. Step forward, please.
Teacher James Chandler is suing the ex-wife of his girlfriend's son, 21-year-old collections agent Trista Chapman, for wrecking his car. James says Trista took the car off-road and broke the axle.
Mr. Chandler, the defendant was driving your car and wrecked it.
That's correct, ma'am.
And you want her to pay for it.
Absolutely.
You didn't give her permission to drive your car.
That's correct.
How do you know her?
She is my girlfriend's son's ex-wife.
Girlfriend's son's ex-wife.
At the time they were estranged.
Now, I'm going to make a guess that the son's name is Brian.
Correct.
Because she says she had Brian's permission to drive the car. So you tell me how that came about and why you don't think you're responsible for the damage to the car.
I had asked Brian to use the car to go to a doctor's appointment.
Were you separated from Brian at the time?
Yes.
So you called Brian. And who was Brian living with?
His mother.
And the plaintiff?
Yes. I had asked him to use the car to go to a doctor's appointment. He had told me, let me call you back. Let me call my mother and ask her if it's okay. He called her, called me back.
No, you don't know what he said to his mother.
No, I don't know what was said.
And he called you back and said what?
Yes, it is okay for you to use the vehicle.
Fine.
He came, he picked me up. I dropped him back off at home. And from there, I went to my doctor's appointment.
Where was your doctor's appointment?
In Apple Valley.
Did you go alone?
Yes.
So you drove alone in the car?
Yes.
Both going there and coming home?
And when I went back, I picked up my friend to give me a ride from Brian's house to back home to where I live.
So after you finished with the doctor's appointment, you picked up a friend, and the friend was supposed to do what?
She was following me over to Brian's house to pick me up from there and take me to my home. Because
so you're driving a car, and your friend is driving in another car?
Yes.
So you're always alone in the car?
No, I had a friend with me in the car.
What friend did you have with you in the car? And where did you get her from?
She was the friend that was coming with me when I went to pick up the car.
Pick up what car?
When I went to pick up the car from Jim's house.
Just a minute. First, this is Jim.
Yes.
I thought Brian came and picked you up.
He picked me up from my home to get the car. But this was after the doctor's appointment when I went to go to my friend's house for her boyfriend because she doesn't have a driver's license for her boyfriend.
Now we're getting someplace else. Just a second. Ms. Chapman, you're going to get the story straight. I want you to understand that. You had Brian's permission to take the car and go to a doctor's appointment and then come home.
No, I had told him that I had to pick up a friend to get my own ride back home. And he said that was fine.
So you picked up a friend after your doctor's appointment and your friend was driving in your car with you?
Yes.
And where did you go with your friend?
We went back to Brian's house.
Fine. So now you drop off the car. Where was the accident?
On the way leaving my friend's house when I had picked her up. And they were following me, and I went through the desert, and I hit a rock.
Went through a desert?
It was a shortcut through.
you took a shortcut on a dirt road.
Yes.
And you hit a rock.
Yes.
And that's when the whole axle broke on the car.
Yes.
So explain to me, Miss Chapman, why you are not responsible for the damage.
Because he's saying that I did not have permission to use a car. I did have permission to use a car. When the accident happened, I called Brian and I told Brian what happened. He said, do not worry about it. I will pay for it.
Well, Brian's not here. Brian's not here. You're driving the car and you had permission to drive the car. Is that right?
Yes.
Why aren't you responsible?
Because he had told me that he was going to pay for it, and I said that was fine.
So sue him.
Yeah, he should sue him. He shouldn't be suing me.
No, you sue him because you have to pay for the damage. And if you have somebody that said to you, don't worry about it, I'll pay for the damage, then you'll be standing on that side and Brian will be standing on this side. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Let me see the bills to fix the car.
I'll have photos of the damage.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
What is this lost wages for November 19th?
I'm a substitute teacher, and I had to take a day off of school and turn a job down in order to go retrieve the car. So it cost me $120.
Get that from Brian. By the way, just for my own information, did you speak to your girlfriend and find out whether Brian had ever called her?
No, I did not, and she wouldn't have given permission to use the vehicle anyway.
Well, you don't know that.
I know her.
Probably not.
He had permission to use the vehicle to go to and from work because she had already damaged their other vehicle. In fact, 2 other vehicles.
Would you describe the interior of the car, sir, when you went to retrieve it? Because I see you have cleaning and deodorizing here.
Yes, ma'am. There was a broken cigarillo butt in there, and French fries all over the floor, and dust from the desert. The exterior of the car was also covered in dust.
Talking about the interior of the car. Did you stop for lunch?
Yes, I did.
Well, what'd you leave the car a mess for inside?
I was going to clean it before I took it back to him, but obviously I couldn't clean it if there was damages to the car, and a tow truck came and picked it up.
Well, why couldn't you clean it out before the tow truck took it?
Because I walked up to my friend's house to call the tow truck for I could do it, but somebody had called and said that a car was banded in the desert, and the police came and the tow truck came and towed it before I could get back to the car.
It's not a difficult case, Mr. Chandler. You have a judgment in the amount of $624.74. That's everything that you're suing for with the exception of your day's wages. Thank you. That's all.
These are excused. You may step out.
Well, the story that was told in court was entirely different than the story I got.
Can't hear the story from me, so therefore he could hear whatever he wants.
I was told that she was driving with a friend and heard a noise and pulled over to see what it was and hit the curb at 10 miles an hour.
I just think that I'm happy that whatever happens happened and he stays out of my life.
The attitude I got was, take me to court. I'm not going to pay for this.
Yes, he could take me to court. I don't care.
I have allowed her husband to use the car to go to and from work.
The whole thing is that he says I did not have permission to use the vehicle, and as far as I knew, I did have permission to use it.
He loaned the car out to somebody else without my consent or knowledge.
The person that gave me the responsibility to use it should pay for the damages.
I think justice is fine with his service.
Sales rep Marcia Hertz is suing strip mall manager Miguel Gonzalez for the value of her father's medical files and for harassment. Miguel is countersuing for defamation of character.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 75 on the calendar in the matter of Hertz versus Gonzalez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Miss Hertz, your father was a doctor?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of a doctor was he?
He was a chiropractic physician, ma'am.
And he passed away in April, is that
March
right?
28th.
According to your complaint, your father had a medical practice and his landlord was the defendant.
No, ma'am. Mr. Gonzalez is the strip mall building manager.
Okay, he was the manager of the building.
Yes, ma'am.
And you tried to get into your father's office in order to retrieve his files after his death.
Yes, ma'am, according to probate code.
Just answer my questions. Mr. Gonzalez would not let you into the building or your father's office when you wanted to get into the office, and it is your claim that because you could not get into the office at an appropriate time, you lost a substantial amount of money because you could have sold those files to another doctor if you had been able to do it sooner, and you're seeking damages in the amount of $5,000. Mr. Gonzalez has a reason that he says that he did not allow you to remove the files when you wanted to. He's counterclaiming for defamation because he says that you're bad-mouthing him to other people, calling him a tyrant. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to forget about your counterclaim. Forget about the counterclaim. Oh, we're going to get to the plaintiff's claim, which I find rather interesting. All right, your father died. Did he die suddenly on March 28th?
No, ma'am. He entered the hospital with viral pneumonia on March 23rd and passed away on March 28th.
How old a man was he?
He had been 84 for 6 weeks.
Had he been in full-time practice up until the time he got sick?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, on what date was the first date that you tried to get into his office?
I arrived in Los Angeles April 3rd in the evening.
On April 3rd?
Yes, ma'am. I was unable to get here sooner than that. Because
So you were not here when your father died?
No, ma'am.
You were not here when he was in the hospital?
No, ma'am.
Where do you live?
Chicago.
Well, were you advised that he was sick and in the hospital on the 23rd of March?
Yes, ma'am. However, my father was always a very strong, healthy person. We're into natural health and healing. And we never expected him to be, we never expected this to happen.
How many children are there?
Just myself.
So who was with him when he was in the hospital? Nobody?
No one.
Ah. So you got here after your father died?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get here after the funeral?
No, ma'am. The service, I went to the mortuary on April 4th. Identified his body at the hospital, took him to the mortuary, and made the arrangements then. And we had a memorial service for him.
Just a minute. So he died on March 28th, 29th, 30th. April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 7 days later,
yes, ma'am,
you managed to find a way to come from Chicago to Los Angeles.
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't sound like a hell of a lot of devotion for me, because all the healing didn't help him. He died on March 28th.
We never expected him to die. We thought he would be back in the office.
He did die on March 28th. What took you 7 days to travel from Chicago to Los Angeles?
I had to make arrangements to take care of my apartment and as well as my birds. And I also had business arrangements to make.
And what did you do when you got here on the 4th of April?
Went to the office building in order to start taking inventory of the office.
Okay. Now, at that point, had you had anything from the probate court giving you the authority to go in there?
Ma'am, the estate was under $100,000. No court supervision was necessary according to probate code 13100, etc.
Were you armed with that information when you came to the office?
No, ma'am.
So, Mr. Gonzalez wouldn't let you in?
No, ma'am.
Good. That's exactly what he should have done. Should not have let you in to go through anything. He doesn't know who you are. As far as he knows, there's a will, and he left all of his estate and all of his property to goodwill. He doesn't know if you have authority. You may be his only child, but he may not have liked you. So he could have left all of his property to somebody else. Isn't that right?
My father died intestate.
He doesn't know that. So you went there on the 4th of April, and he said you can't come in. What happened next?
Mr. Gonzalez had been apprised by a volunteer that worked for my father.
Don't tell me what he had been apprised at hearsay conversation with anybody. He has a tenant who died, leaving property in their office, and he is liable if, perchance, they find a will of your father's that says I leave all of my possessions to whatever medical school he went to, whatever university he went to. And you go in there and you say, I'm his daughter, I'm entitled to everything. How does he know that you're entitled to anything? You had nothing from a court?
At that time, no.
Fine. When did you go back?
I received a phone call on April 13th, Saturday, from Mr. Gonzalez telling me that he was putting all of my father's possessions, office possessions, into storage, which I would be responsible for paying for. And if any of the movers hurt themselves, I would also be responsible for their medical bills. Mr. Gonzalez,
He can't do that either.
Mr. Gonzalez,
if he did it, he can't do that either, because you're not responsible for anything. You're not responsible financially for anything, and you're not responsible if these movers get hurt schlepping the files. So if he said that to you, he's 100% wrong. So if I got a lot of lawyers here. Go ahead. So that's April 13th.
I was also told that my father's files, patient files, needed to be put into storage for 7 years by another practitioner. He gave me the names and phone numbers of 2 chiropractors who would be happy to store my father's files.
Fine. So you said no, thank you. Well,
the files are the heart of the business. They're a sacred trust, and they are saleable items.
Miss Hartz, let's get on with it. Stop with, you're pulling at my heartstrings. It took you 7 days to get from Chicago to Los Angeles. It was more important to take care of your birds than it was to come to say goodbye to your father. I have very little sympathy for that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
My father overpaid on his last month's rent.
Get on with it. That's not what you're suing him for. You keep making things up as you're going along, madam.
And later today,
I don't know how long you've been drinking, but I would guess, based upon my experience in the court, that you've been drinking a long time. That's not the way to bring up a child.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marcia Hurt says when her father passed away, building manager Miguel Gonzalez kept her from retrieving files from his business.
April 13th, he said he's putting the stuff in storage. What did you do next?
On the 15th, I arrived at the office early in the morning to make sure that the removal of my father's property did not happen. 7:30 in the morning, Mr. Gonzalez knocked on the door wanting me to sign a piece of paper. I refused to do so because there were no copies of it. He told me that he would make copies of this paper after I had signed it. And I said, no, make copies first. He wouldn't tell me what it was. Next thing he said was that he was going to call the LAPD to have me arrested for trespassing. They arrived 5 minutes later
and
threatened me with arrest that if I did not sign this piece of paper. I was bullied and coerced into signing it. It turned out to be a release of tenancy by April 30th. Which gave me the entire month of April to remove my father's possessions, not by April 15th.
Okay, so?
Well, the tenant paid the rent for the month of April, which gave me until April 30th.
Well, that's what that says. You have until the 30th.
Yes, ma'am.
So?
And I did not have a problem with that.
So?
However, in here, because of the if I may continue?
Go ahead.
Because of the termination of the month-to-month tenancy is terminated by the death of the tenant, Landlord is permitting Marcy Hertz on behalf of and as representative of the estate of Albert Hertz, hereinafter Marcy Hertz, to enter the property for the sole purpose of removing possessions of the tenant. Marcy Hertz takes full responsibility for all property removed from the premises, including but not limited to the chiropractic records contained herein.
Ms. Hertz, I don't get the problem, madam. I don't get the problem at all. You signed something that says you take full responsibility for the files as a representative of the estate, even though he doesn't know you're a representative of the estate. And you have to be out of the premises by April 30th.
Which is the reason I was here. However, on April 13th, he threatened to remove the contents of Dad's office.
So? He didn't?
No, he did not.
So what? What are you here for?
I'm here because my father overpaid on his last month's rent.
That's not part of your claim. That's not part of your claim.
All right.
Then what are you here for?
I'm here because the overpayment was more than 50% of what his current rent was, which would have given me into the middle of May to sell the files.
Get on with it. That's not what you're suing him for. You keep making things up as you're going along, madam.
Excuse me, ma'am. The value of the files decreases every day. The goodwill.
So?
The files are now worthless.
Listen, you were able to get the files as of April 15th. Is that right?
Ma'am, I was able to gain entrance to the office.
You were able, once you signed that document, assuming responsibility, on April 15th, you were able to get the files. Is that right or wrong?
You are correct, ma'am.
Good. And you say that because you weren't able to go and get the files either on the 4th or the 8th, the value of the files diminished because it took an extra week. Is that right?
Is
that right?
I had to find another chiropractor to take my father's practice over.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Each day of his passing, the files diminish.
Then, Miss Hertz, I would have suggested that if that's the way you felt, you should have made it your business to get there a week earlier after your father died. Because if you had gotten there on the 28th, you would have resolved this matter by the 8th of April.
No,
but you chose to take care of your birds instead of coming and taking care of your father's business, and you want somebody else to be responsible for that. It's ludicrous. Your case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was going around my neighborhood with my peers saying that I am mafia connected, that I have LAPD people in my pocket, intimidating her.
I knew very well who I was before I even came down. We were in telephone contact prior to my coming down here.
Assistant Charvette Cross is suing her former friend, maintenance man Devin Davis, for vandalizing her car and for an assault.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 128 on the calendar, the matter of Cross versus Davis.
Thanks,
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Cross, the defendant is a former boyfriend of yours, and it is your claim that after some disagreement last New Year's Eve, he vandalized your car and later assaulted you. Mr. Davis says he did neither. So you had been his girlfriend for a while. You went to a party.
I was never his girlfriend. We were just friends.
You went to a party together?
Yes.
New Year's Eve?
Yes.
According to you, you were dancing with somebody else and he got annoyed?
Yes.
So take it from there.
All right. We went together as friends. I started dancing with someone else. 2 minutes into the dancing, he came up and pulled me on my arm and said he needed to talk to me. I told him I would talk to him when I was done dancing. He continued to stand there. Once I did finish dancing, I asked him what did he want, and he told me why was I here dancing with someone else, and that's when I told him, why would you ask me that? We're just here as friends. You're not my boyfriend, and I can do what I want to do. And he kind of shoved me and he walked away. I didn't see him anymore that night at the club. I left about an hour and a half later. When I did arrive in front of Devin's building, I noticed he was...
You went back to his building. Why?
Because my van was parked there. I left it there and we got a cab because I didn't want to be drinking and driving.
So you went back to his place to pick up your car?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And that's when I noticed he was outside in front of it. And as we pulled up, the lights, when it shined on the vehicle, it's when he ran into his building. And that's when I noticed that the tires were slashed, the first thing I noticed, and the windows were busted. And I ran into the building after him.
Okay. So when you got up to the building, you saw him standing near your car,
when
near
we
your
were
van.
pulling up.
You saw him standing near your van?
Yes.
You didn't see him doing anything to your car?
Well, he was motioning. I couldn't exactly see.
You didn't see him doing it? Just answer my question.
No.
Right. And then you saw him run into the building?
Yes.
Next.
And that's when my witness, she got out of the car because I couldn't get in the building, and I was buzzing and vamming, and then finally a neighbor walked out of the building, and that's how I got in. But there was another door that I couldn't get through, so I stood there and I buzzed his buzzer, and that's when I noticed the defendant looking up from the basement through the windows, and finally someone else did come out, and that's how I got in, and I confronted him then.
Where did you go to confront him?
Right inside the entrance of the doorway. It's in the hall.
Go ahead.
I asked him, why did you do that to my vehicle? And he didn't answer me. I grabbed his shirt, and he kind of pushed me and told me not to touch him, and I continued to grab his shirt, and it's when he swung, and he hit me, and I hit him back.
When did you get him in a headlock?
When we were in an altercation.
Just a minute. According to your complaint, madam, he pushed you, you pushed him.
Yes.
That's what you say. You have to get your story straight. And then you say at some point you got him in a headlock.
Yes.
And what happened when you got him in a headlock?
I punched him. I punched him in the face.
Yeah. So, and then what happened?
And that's when my witness came up and she kind of broke it up.
So why are you suing him for assault?
Because he hit me first. I only grabbed his shirt.
That's touching him. You can't grab the shirt.
Okay.
I mean, okay. You grabbed him. He, according to you, pushed you away. You grabbed his shirt again.
Yes.
Why?
Because I wanted to know why he did that to my vehicle.
Why don't you just go call the police?
I did.
Why don't you call the police first before you put your hands on him?
I was upset.
Sure. You can't sue him for assault. You touched him first. Got him in a headlock and then punched him in the face. Then he hit you back. If he did it at all, he says he didn't do anything. Is this your witness?
Yes, it is.
Step up here. Tell me your name.
Kanaiza Motiva.
You were with her when you got home from the club?
Yes.
You didn't see him doing anything to the car?
I saw a shadow of someone running towards the building, but I didn't know. We actually met at the club, she and I did. So when we pulled up, I didn't know whose house we were in front of. We just pulled up, someone ran, and she ran out of the car.
When you say you saw someone, it was a person that you could not identify. You couldn't see their face?
It was like 1:30 in the morning. It was a
So
man.
you couldn't see their face,
No.
is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Could you see what they were wearing? Or was it too dark?
It was very dark, but I also didn't know that there was anything wrong at the time when I saw someone.
That's not what
running.
I'm asking. I'm asking
It was dark, and I didn't see what they were wearing.
And you were in the car with the plaintiff?
Yes.
How is it that your witness couldn't see the face of the person and you could?
Because I was looking at my vehicle as we were coming up. I was paying attention to my vehicle because that's where we were going to. I was also in the back seat of the car.
All right, Mr. Davis, now you tell me your version of these events, sir.
Well, me and Chavette went out to a club called The Zone. She asked me to use my cell phone. That's how everything else happened. I was talking to a friend. I gave her my cell phone. Then later on, I asked for my cell phone. I forgot that I gave it to her. That's when I seen her dance on the floor with the two guys and my phone. So I pulled her to the side, asked her for my phone back, asked her what she was doing. She's supposed to be with me. She said that we were just dating, not my boyfriend. So I got my cell phone back. So I went to another part of the club, and she went her way. And I went home. But before I went home, it took about maybe half an hour just to get a cab, and I wasn't able to get one right away. So I went home, changed my clothes, because everybody wanted to know how was the evening.
You went home because the evening was over?
Right, it was like 2 in the morning when everything shut down.
Oh, so what'd you change your clothes for?
I was done. It was time to go home.
Why did you change your clothes? It was done, time to go home. Why do you go home and change? You mean you put on your pajamas? Into what did you change? Did you put on your jammies? Did you put on a new pair of jeans? What did you put on?
I just put on regular clothes.
Where were you going?
What happened was that when I went home, I changed my clothes. I went downstairs in my apartment building because everyone wanted to know how was the evening.
So you were going to meet up with some other people?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
As I went downstairs to tell my friend what happened, there was some police officers there. So they told me, go back. So I went back to my apartment. And then when I went to my apartment, there was some police officers driving the parking lot, shining their lights. I went to the manager, asked him what was going on. He was saying something about someone was damaging their vehicle.
And you don't know anything about that?
No.
Were you arrested?
No.
Did you file a police report?
Yes, I did.
Can I see it, please? Is this the only report that you have?
Yes, it is. They said that because it was not an emergency and because it was the New Year's, that they could not dispatch another one out. I would have to wait 2 hours, and I live in another city, and there was nowhere for me to wait.
So you did not wait until the police arrived, is that right?
No.
You did not wait. So when it says here, victim states that when she confronted the suspect about the damage, he hit her, causing a split lip and a bruise to her face, that's something you reported over the telephone?
Yes, it is.
You have photographs?
I have photographs of my vehicle, yes.
I'm not interested in your car. I'm interested in your face.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I also did have to get a harassment order because the defendant continued to call me the next day as if nothing ever happened. He called and said, "What's up? What are you doing?"
Hey, you used any drugs at this club that you went to?
And later today,
What kind of furniture are we talking about, sir?
We're just talking about regular furniture. I have
Regular furniture, as opposed to irregular furniture. What furniture?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Charvette Cross says, after an argument at a club, former friend Devin Davis vandalized her car and assaulted her. Devin says Charvette punched him first.
Ms. Cross, I'm not satisfied with your story. Doesn't make sense to me that someone is assaulted, has their face bashed in, has their car totaled, slashing all 4 tires, breaking all 4 windows, breaking the rear view mirror, interior lights, breaking headlights, ripping off the bug visor, and slashing the upholstery. Doesn't wait for the police to arrive, especially if she can identify the perpetrator. So I'm not going to make that judgment now. That's what you do. You wait for the police to arrive. Police take a statement, they take his statement, they take witnesses' statements, they render a police report. That's of some help to me. He says he didn't do it. She says she couldn't see who was standing there.
Your Honor, when we was inside the building and after she broke up the fight and I asked him why did he do it, she was standing there and she can witness to what he said.
Oh, well, I'm waiting to hear that. What did he say?
He admitted that he did it.
No. What did he say?
He said that he did it. He said he was sorry he did it. He never explained why he did it.
Now I come back to you. So far, this witness has been honest with me. The witness has said to me, I couldn't see who the person was who was standing outside. She didn't lie. She said it was dark. Couldn't see their clothing. I couldn't see their face. That's honest. She could have just as easily said to me, I saw it was him, right?
True.
And why do you think she would lie to me now when she says that you did it, you would acknowledge that you did it, and said you were sorry? Why do you think she would lie about that?
Well, first of all, I ain't doing anything, and I don't know why she said that.
No, I'm asking you, why do you think she would lie about one thing and not another?
I have no idea.
Don't?
No.
And you never got into a physical altercation with Miss Cross at all that evening? Physical?
No, not really physical, no.
What do you mean, not really physical? What does that mean, not really physical?
When she came in, I pushed my buzzer. I wasn't able to buzz her in because it was broken, so I had to come downstairs. When I come downstairs, I spoke to Charvette through the glass door because she was angry. Are you what? I said, what's going on? That's when she came out the car. Mm-hmm. So I'm still behind the glass. I didn't go nowhere. I was like, what is you talking about? But I know you did this. I know you did that. I said, no, not me. And that's when she swung at me. Because both of them left. They left the premises, went back towards the car. Mm-hmm. Took off.
Now I'll look at the damage to your car.
May I say something, Your Honor?
Sure.
First of all, he wasn't truthful. His friend was never with us, and I never used his cell phone when we were at the club. Another thing, he just stated that I swung at him, but he was behind the glass door. Why would I swing at a glass door that's closed?
Gotcha. I want you to think very hard, madam, about what he said to you about the damage to the car.
I remember him saying that he felt bad that he did it. I was waiting for a why, and that's all I ever heard her say. I'd also like to say that the only reason I went in the building was because I saw the struggle. He wasn't behind a door. They were struggling, and I ran in there.
Okay, let me see the estimate to fix this van.
May I say something else, Your Honor? Mm-hmm. At the time that the car was damaged, I still had Christmas gifts in there, and nothing was taken out of it. Brand new bikes and presents, and nothing was stolen. And it's not a very nice neighborhood. I also did have to get a harassment order because the defendant continued to call me the next day as if nothing ever happened.
What did he say when he called you?
Well, he called and said, "What's up? What are you doing?" As if nothing had ever happened the night before, which I found very, very strange. And I told him, don't call me anymore. Are you going to pay for my vehicle? He said, well, I'll pay for half because I do feel bad about it. And that's when I said, that's not okay with me. I didn't do half the damage. I don't feel that you should only pay for half.
Did he use any drugs at this club that you went to?
No, but we did smoke marijuana before we went.
What about him?
Yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,732. Thank you.
Thank you.
Party's our excuse. You may step out.
I told him we were only friends, and obviously he wanted more than that.
They ain't seen me do it. I walked nowhere around.
He totally lied.
Hit by a car.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 2020 Hildreth Mahasani versus Southampton.
Thank you. Miss Hildreth.
Yes.
Pronounce your last name for me, sir.
Mahasani.
Mahasani.
Yes.
You two were crossing the street in San Diego?
In Carlsbad Village.
Is that in San Diego?
It is. It's a suburb of San Diego.
Is that where you live?
Correct, in Carlsbad.
And you were hit by Miss Santiago, who was driving her mother's car.
Correct.
Miss Santiago acknowledges that she hit you. And you were seriously injured. You've had shoulder surgery. You were both injured.
Correct.
When did this happen?
This happened on Friday, September 4th, 2020.
I just have a couple of preliminary questions before I get into the facts of it.
Sure.
I assume that since this accident happened in 2020, that you tried to sue either the defendant and or her mother as the car's owner.
Well, we would have done so, but the driver was uninsured.
That's the question. You would have done so, except the mother had no insurance.
It is my knowledge that the mother had insurance, but and which I have the evidence, that her daughter was excluded from the policy.
The policy, and therefore the insurance company disclaimed. Correct. I'd like to see that.
Absolutely.
That's why your mother's not here.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, that's why your mother's not here, Miss Santiago.
Without her knowing.
Miss Santiago, that's why your mother's not here.
No.
Well, were you excluded from the insurance policy? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
Then you shouldn't have been driving the car.
Yeah, I know.
Just a second. Then you
I
shouldn't
know.
have been driving the car.
I took the car
To a question.
responsibility.
I
and
didn't
I took
ask
that car
you. Do
without
you understand?
information.
They don't listen to you when I'm speaking. When I ask you a question, you'll answer me. I don't want to hear some pat answer. I want to hear a lot of I'm sorries. I want to hear a lot of I'm sorries.
Why would I say I'm sorry if they didn't pay attention when they were crossing?
You weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car.
But I was paying
You
attention.
weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car.
But why they didn't pay attention?
I'm not speaking to you. I just told you why. Why should I
There
say
was
I'm
no
sorry?
flashing.
Hey, be quiet. Why should I say I'm sorry if they weren't paying attention? Because you weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. If you weren't behind the wheel of a car, whether they were paying attention or not would be irrelevant. You weren't supposed to be driving. She thinks you have a big mouth. You don't have a bigger mouth than me, madam. I guarantee you, the last person who drove yesterday that wasn't supposed to drive yesterday because they were drunk killed
was not
six.
drunk.
Nobody's listening to you. When I'm speaking, nobody's listening to you. Killed 6 people. Last person who drove that wasn't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car killed 6 people. You were not.
I wasn't drunk.
I'm speaking. You were not supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. Don't you understand that?
I understand
Are you
that.
stupid?
I'm not.
You were not supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. You were an excluded driver, and you were an excluded driver for a reason.
Not only that,
Our investigation, which is after you notified the insurance company, determined that the driver of the insured's car, Jennifer Ramirez, was not covered by the policy. That's what you told me.
Correct.
I don't understand this. You were walking, correct?
Correct.
What is this? Your driving privileges will be suspended on November 21st. What is that?
I think there was a misunderstanding that we were actually driving a vehicle.
Yeah.
And when I called the DMV and I explained that, no, we're actually pedestrians, then they said, oh, I'm sorry, disregard that.
Yeah.
Stupid.
And
Do you have a letter from them indicating that this is wrong?
They just told me that we can disregard it and they just corrected it. That's all they did.
And it was not because she was also unlicensed.
Just a second. I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I'm not there with Big Mouth. Okay. This happened on September 4th, 2020. What time of the day?
It was in the evening. It
What
was
time?
about 8 p.m.
It was, around 8 o'clock.
Light or dark outside?
Dark.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of
It is.
the intersection where this happened?
It is, Your Honor.
Ms. Santiago, is that a fair and accurate representation of the intersection where this happened?
Yes.
So at the intersection where this happened, there were lines across the highway indicating pedestrian walkway.
Correct.
And there were 2 signs indicating pedestrian walkway.
There were 3 signs. One in the center median and one on each side.
On September 4th, Ms. Santiago, this requires a yes or a no answer from you. On September the 4th, 2020, did you have a valid driver's license?
Lisa Hilbert and Reza Mahasani playing 20-year-old Jennifer Santiago.
On September 4th, Ms. Santiago, this requires a yes or a no answer from you. On September the 4th, 2020, did you have a valid driver's license?
I didn't, Your Honor.
I said it's either a yes or a no. Did you have a valid driver's license?
No.
Did you ever have a valid driver's license?
No.
Do you have a valid driver's license today?
I know, Your Honor, because they...
That's a no. What's your name?
Vanessa?
What?
Giles?
Stand up. Did you come with her today?
Yes.
How did you get here?
I drove. My license.
Just a second. You drove?
Yes.
And whose car?
My car.
What kind of car is it?
Kia.
Did you ever drive with Miss Santiago?
Yes.
When? Did you ever drive in a car where she was the driver and you were the passenger?
Yes.
When?
September 4th.
2020. 2 years
Other than
ago.
September 4th, 2020, did you ever drive with Miss Santiago where you were the passenger?
Yes.
When?
September 4th.
I said other than September
that,
4th.
no.
Other than September 4th.
Other than that, no.
On September 4th at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Where were you?
We were at the beach. Carlsbad Beach.
You were at the beach. Who else was at the beach?
Santiago and another friend. He's a minor. He's 16.
There were 3 of you at the beach. Anybody else that you knew at the beach?
No.
How long had you been at the beach?
Like for an hour.
So you got there at 6 o'clock in the evening?
We got there at 7. We were going back home at 8.
So you got to the beach at 7. What did you do at the beach at 7 o'clock?
We would just...
At her house. Just think. Take a breath. Did you meet at her house or did Miss Santiago pick you up?
She picked me up.
How far do you live from her?
2 minutes away.
And what about the 16-year-old minor?
3 minutes away.
Did she pick up the 16-year-old minor?
Yes.
How old was Miss Santiago in September of 2020?
18.
Are you a good friend of hers?
Yes, I am.
You knew she didn't have a driver's license?
Yes.
Did you know why she didn't have a driver's license?
She was still studying for a test.
Had she taken the test before?
Yes,
She had taken the test before.
Yes.
Do you remember how many times?
Yes.
How many times did she take the test?
2 times.
And the 2 times she took the test, she failed it?
Yes, she did.
Okay. So now she's driving without a license because she's failed her driving test twice at the time of this. So she's studying to pass it maybe for the 3rd time. Right?
Yes.
And now we have 2 years later, she still doesn't have a driver's license.
Yes.
Do you know why?
No.
Well, you're her good friend. Didn't you ask her? Well, it's 2 years later. Did you ever pass your driving test?
She hasn't yet.
Sit. Now tell me what happened at 8 o'clock on the 4th of September 2020.
I have pictures if you like, and would it be okay to approach the screen to show you better?
No, it's not necessary. You were crossing the street.
Correct.
In a crosswalk, she hit you.
Correct. We were.
You were crossing the street in a crosswalk and she hit you.
Yeah. So we had come to the crosswalk sign on the left side of the photo. We pressed the button. It illuminated the flashing lights to indicate that it was okay to cross. We looked to the left. Those 2 cars were already parked. We proceeded to the middle and noticed that the car furthest, in the furthest lane from us, that car was already parked.
Cross.
Listen,
Are you
for someone who can't take and pass a driver's test 3 times, at least I would keep my mouth shut until I look at you for an answer. Do you understand?
Yes.
And it was estimated by the officer that we...
No. She hit you in a crosswalk. That's a crosswalk. This young lady knew I'm not... Did you hear me? I'm not speaking to you. You don't understand this was a really bad day for this kind of case to come into court. You do understand that?
Yes.
Okay, good. And you know why this is a very bad day for your case to come into court?
No.
Then you don't read the newspapers. I suggest if you read the newspaper, maybe you would be able to pass your driving test. Because either you failed the written portion or you failed the driving portion. One or the other. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. Now we understand each other. Now you're almost at I'm sorry. You're almost at I'm sorry. When the defendant's car struck you, where did you land?
I have photos to show.
I'd like to see it.
It kind of shows on the second photo there.
Oh, you hit her windshield. Who hit her windshield?
We
Is that you?
both did, Your Honor. And the hood.
That's not true. I only saw that her husband, that he hit the shield. It wasn't her.
What an idiot. Kevin, can I see the police report, please?
Sure.
See? I'd also like you to show her these. I just want her to take a look at them. To know what happens when you act irresponsibly. And you do things that you're not supposed to do, like take a car and drive it when you have no license, when you failed your driving test twice.
Lisa Hildreth and Reza Mahasani are accusing 20-year-old Jennifer Santiago of hitting them in a crosswalk while she was driving without a license.
Okay, your last name is?
Giles?
You spoke to the police that day.
Yes, I did.
I don't know what you're doing here as a witness. She stated she did not see what happened. That's what it says here.
Yes.
Just a second. That's what it says here. Uncross your arms. Now you can sit down. Gillis stated she did not see what happened. However, she identified Miss Santiago as the driver.
And then there was a witness. Witness 1 stated she was riding as a passenger in a vehicle driving northbound on the 3100 block of Carlsbad Boulevard. The two plaintiffs were crossing the road in a marked crosswalk on the south side of the intersection of Carlsbad Boulevard and Oak Avenue. The two were crossing from the west side of the street to the east side of the street. The yellow warning lights next to the crosswalk were flashing.
They were not.
Witness 1 observed plaintiff 1 driving northbound towards the crosswalk at a fast speed. She drove through. I'm speaking, not you.
I was not.
I'm speaking, not you. I'm reading from a statement in the police report from a witness who stopped when this accident happened that you don't know. Neither do you. Okay, so now we have a witness who neither one of you know, who said the yellow lights were flashing, even if they did a blood test there for alcohol. States as follows. During the investigation, P1, that would be you, displayed objective symptoms of intoxication. I noticed her eyes were slightly red and watery. Her speech was very quiet. I determined P1 was under the influence of cannabis.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second. Do you have any supplementary police reports?
The only other thing that I have from the officer is an email that he...
No. An email to whom?
An email from the police officer to us.
I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so what you said to the police officer was, and the police officer responded to you, that the report came back negative.
Correct.
And he said, I'm not changing it. Therefore, it's not a criminal matter. You have to sue her civilly.
Correct.
Because clearly the accident was her fault.
Correct.
Were you taken to the hospital that day?
We both were.
And you were taken to jail?
Yeah.
When was the last time you took a driving test? Month and year?
I haven't taken no driving test.
When was the last time you took a driving test, madam? You failed twice. So I want to know when the last time was that you took a driving test.
I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Did you take a driving test in the year 2021?
Yeah, I did.
Did you pass that driving test?
No.
Was that your third?
No.
So I asked you, in 2021, did you take it? You said yes, you didn't pass it. And I asked you, was that the third or the fourth test that you had?
That was my second.
No. I don't know how much more that a court system can do, but to say to people who don't have driver's licenses, especially in your case where you tried to get a license but failed to pass on at least 2 occasions before this incident, which means that you were a risk to be on the road because you couldn't pass a driving test twice before this incident. Now you want to tell me whether you, and this requires a short answer, not one of your long ones. Did you have your mother's permission to take the car that day to pick her up and go to the beach?
No.
Have you ever had your mother's permission to take the car and go anywhere?
No.
So in effect, if you had no license and you didn't ask for permission, then you stole the car.
No.
What do you mean no? You didn't have permission of the owner to take the car. You weren't a licensed driver. Therefore, there was no insurance. Let's go back. Did you ever ask your mother to use the car?
No, not at all.
And what happened after you had this accident in your mother's car and after you got out of jail? What happened between you and your mother?
Well, she was sad because I was in jail. And, well, she was also mad. Because, why would I take the car without her permission?
Why did you take the car without her permission?
Well, I honestly didn't thought that this would happen.
Nobody thinks that an accident is going to happen. I don't think you intentionally hit these 2 people.
No.
I don't think you intentionally.
Sorry, and I'm telling them again that I'm sorry.
Good. That's better. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Well, I'm really pleased with the judge's decision.
I didn't see anything until that guy hit the windshield.
We have a young child, so we understand that the driver was young and mistakes happen.
I started screaming and I was scared.
For about 3 hours in the hospital. I didn't know she was going to live or die, basically.
I was so scared, I just stayed there. I was in shock.
It's been rough.
I told them that I was sorry that the accident happened.
I had internal bleeding in my arm. I have loss of range of motion in my hand.
Well, I didn't even went to see them because I was so scared.
It was the unluckiest day and the luckiest day of our life. So we're here and we're grateful for that.
I was super scared. I was I killed them. I was crying in jail.
We will have to deal with physical injuries, but like Lisa said, it was the unluckiest and luckiest moment of our life. So we're grateful that we're here.
Being pretty close to 18 myself, I can understand driving my father or mother's car and maybe not understanding if they had insurance or me not having insurance myself. So I could understand and sympathize maybe with not knowing whether a car was insured or not. But you know for sure if you went 1 time, 2 times, 3 times and did not pass a driver's test and you don't hold a license in your wallet at 18, you know whether or not you have a license, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
No one expects an accident. That's the point.
Number 2003, Gaines versus Gaines.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Miss Gaines, you and the defendant are half-sisters. You share the same father.
Yes.
Have you always had a relationship with your father?
Yes.
And you, Miss Gaines?
Yes.
There came a time when you were living with your dad.
Yes.
From when to when were you living with your dad?
From October 2018 to December 2021.
And who was living at the same residence?
It was me, my dad, and a roommate, my dad's roommate.
No children?
Yes, my children stayed there as well. I
Okay, well,
apologize.
that's important.
Sorry.
How many children?
I have 4 daughters.
How old are they?
11, 10, 4, and 5.
Were you working?
Yes.
From 18 to 21?
I stopped working in November 2019, and I started back working October 21.
What kind of work do you do?
I work for United Healthcare. I'm a customer service rep for Optum.
Just so that I get a sense, because this is a family issue. You clearly had a life before you moved to your father's house in 2018. Can you tell me why you moved to your father's house in 2018?
Because where I was living, the house was smaller, and my dad felt like he wanted me and my children to be in a safer environment.
So you had an ongoing, constant relationship with him?
Yes.
And Miss Gaines, tell me about you. Did you ever live with your father?
I lived with my father when I was in the 9th grade.
But not since you were a child?
No.
Did you maintain a relationship with him?
I did. Me and my father do mechanic work together most of the time, so I'm at his house a lot.
Was that a business that you had together?
Just more so for fun, family time. If he needed help, I could go in and assist him. I just use that as extra time.
And that was consistent and up through 2021?
Yes.
So you saw your sister there? Because she was living there with her children?
Yes, on occasion though. Her and her kids would be out more often. I would just go and visit my dad when the house was empty and he needed more company and help and assistance because he was there alone.
How old was he?
Yes.
And they worked together on mechanical stuff?
I never saw that. Me and my sister, we had a close relationship, so she would come over and hang out with me all the time.
Okay. Good. And then, unfortunately, something happened. You want to tell me when that was and what it was?
October, I believe it was the 30th. Me and my sister, we got into an altercation.
Tell me the beginnings of it, because each of you claimed that the other harassed, claimed your sister assaulted you, and both of you claimed some damage to automobiles that was caused by the other during the course of these altercations. Okay, so tell me what happened in October.
So the Thursday prior to the 30th, which was a Saturday in October, my sister was supposed to come to my house and do my kids' hair. But that was something that I had just asked her to do. Like we said, I stayed with my dad. They were having some issues.
Who was having issues?
My sister and my dad.
Were you having issues with your father around that time?
I was told I was having issues with my father at that time by my sister Jessica.
Did you discuss it with your father?
I did, and I found out that that was a lie that Jessica had told him, was making up lies to make us not like each other.
Okay, so there was some bad feeling about that.
Right, so I was inviting her over because she was struggling, and I needed my kids' hair done for picture day. So
She was what?
Struggling.
Struggling.
Financially.
Okay.
So I offered to pay her to do my kids' hair. My dad did inform me that she wasn't able to come to the house, that I needed to go to her house. And I don't really know what her situation was like over there, so I let my dad know I was uncomfortable, and I also let her know our dad said it was not okay for you to come over here with us today, and he wanted an apology.
He wanted an apology? Yes. From her?
Yes.
Did you say? Did your sister come over to the house on October 30th?
Yes.
Approximately what time?
I believe 11:30 in the morning.
Had you had a conversation with her that morning and told her not to come over?
Yes.
Did you tell her why?
Oh, I can't speak on it because he's not.
No.
I don't.
My question is, did you tell your sister why?
Yes.
What did you tell your sister?
That our dad did not want her there.
Is that what she told you?
That is what she told me.
Did you ask her why?
I did.
What did she tell you?
She told me that my dad was under the impression that I was hanging out with drug dealers and dangerous people, and that he didn't want me around.
Did you call your father?
I did.
And you had a discussion with him?
I did.
Were you invited over to the house?
I called.
That's either a yes or a no.
No.
So now you have information, whether accurate or not, that you weren't welcome in your father's house for whatever reason, or for the reason that was articulated to you. You called your father to confirm that, and your father did in fact confirm that.
He confirmed that there was a issue between Jessica and I, and that we needed to resolve it. He was not going to get involved with it, but he did not confirm that I was denied access to his house.
Well, just for my information, what did you think the issue was between you and your sister?
She was lying to my father.
Well, no, your father didn't say that your sister's lying to me. Your father had to have indicated to you that these are the things that I'm being told, and you have to resolve that with your sister.
Yes.
But your father told you not to come to the house.
No, he did not tell me not to come to the house.
Did he suggest you come to the house?
Neither. He neither suggested I come or not to. He just said I should
resolve it with her.
Yes.
Okay. And you went over there that morning?
I stated to her that I would come over and resolve it right then and there.
That's a yes. You knew she was coming, so this wasn't a surprise visit. You knew she was coming. Now tell me what happened when she got there.
So when she gets there, me and my dad were standing outside already. She gets out of her car. I approach her car. It's a little back and forth. And then...
No, tell me the back and forth. And try to keep your voice up.
Sorry. So when I approach her car, she jumps out the car. Then she reaches for a taser. So then I close her in the door. And once my dad, we were outside together, he pulls me off the door. She then takes her car, it's a video. She's attempting to run me over with her car. She did manage to run over my foot. I then went in the house. I got a broomstick, like an attachment, like the broom wasn't attached. But I've got the broomstick, and I went outside and I started swinging it at her car. And I damaged the hood of her car and the window.
And then she left?
No. She stayed at the house. I went back in the house. She called the police, and I'm not sure what happened after she called the police.
Well, did the police arrive?
My dad informed me that we didn't know what she was telling the police, that when police come, everybody gets arrested. So he said, I had something to do that day, go get a facial at an appointment at 1 o'clock. So I just went ahead and headed off to that.
So you left?
Yes.
You knew she called the police and you left? Yes. Leaving your dad to explain to the police what happened?
My dad didn't talk to the police neither.
So they just came?
As far as I know, they just came, knocked on the door when I called to see if there was a report made. The police said no report was made. That was it.
Okay, fine. So the damage that was done to your car was done with a broomstick handle?
Yes.
To her car?
Yes.
By you?
Yes.
Now, Miss Gaines, did you have a taser in your car?
I don't own a taser.
And when you got to the house, your father was standing with...
So he was at the door.
Why don't you tell me your version of what happened when you pulled up?
I pulled up. I was recording the incident on my phone. I don't have that recording because it was on Instagram. I didn't want the embarrassment to go on any longer. I tried to screen record it, but it didn't save.
Okay, so you don't have video?
I don't have that full video. I do have a short video of her actually attacking the car with a stick that she came out of the house with, though. So I do have that.
I'd like to look at it.
I have the full video.
Okay, I'd like to see hers, and thank you for telling me you have the full video.
Okay.
I think the full video might be more sufficient because I have bits and pieces of the video.
Kevin, I'm going to take both. Would you pull up the video that you have on your phone?
We're going to go over to my family member's house right now to find out why we want to fight me. And she has literally did everything in her possibility to make my dad my enemy. She has moved into his house, told him I'm on drugs. My family has come up with the excuse that I'm on drugs, and that's why nobody has come to see me. Yeah, do it. I'm on live.
First, Miss Gaines, you do understand that you damaged your sister's car?
Yes.
Okay, and that you have to pay for that? Yes.
Jessica Gaines claims her sister, Joanne Gaines, vandalized her car and harassed her. Joanne is countersuing for an assault and filing a false restraining order against her.
Okay, Ms. Gaines, you do understand that you damaged your sister's car?
Yes.
Okay, and that you have to pay for that?
She sued me for the damages already.
She sued you? Did she get the damages?
Yes.
Oh.
She was granted.
Okay. Okay, so you sued her already and you got a judgment?
Yes, for that incident.
For this damage?
But not the damage that would happen on December the 12th.
Just a second. Sorry. You had damage to your car?
Yes.
And tell me what that was.
So on 3 different occasions, she came to my house and popped both of my tires on the driver's side of my car.
Okay. And this was after October 30th?
Yes.
You'd been living at your father's house for 3 years?
Yes.
With your children. During that 3-year period of time, was your car ever damaged?
No.
Did you ever have tires popped on the car?
No.
Did you confront your sister at any time about the damage to your car?
No.
According to this, you have a video of her near your car.
Yes.
On one of those occasions.
Yes.
I'd like to see it. Before I even look at it, Ms. Gaines, you received a judgment and were compensated for the damage to your car caused by your sister. Mm-hmm. Do you acknowledge that you or someone acting on your behalf flattened her tires?
1 tire.
Okay. So you say you flattened them 1 time?
1 tire, 1 time.
And when?
right before November.
Okay. And what did you flatten the tires with?
Knife.
So
Just
you
one
slashed.
tire.
She did say tires, didn't
Just
she?
one tire.
She said one tire, one time.
Okay. And that was in November?
Beginning of November.
Did you pay for that tire?
I did not.
And do you have photographs of the flattened tires?
Yes.
I'd like to take a look at them. How many times were they flattened?
My tires were flattened 3 times.
Tires. How many tires the first time?
2.
How many tires the second time?
Sorry, I just want to make sure. 2.
How many tires the third time?
2.
And you filed a case against your sister for damage to your car on what date?
This 16th.
And your tires had already been flattened how many times?
3.
Do you have a bill for those tires?
Yes. Well, I had took the receipt before, so I don't have the receipt, but I have the police report. Where the police
No, I want to see the receipt.
I'm sorry.
I need damages. You want damages, you have to show me that you spent money to replace the tires and how much they cost.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When I went to court, when she was suing me for her car, I just took the receipts as proof, and when the judge took it, I never got it back.
Did you countersue her for the tires when
No.
she sued you?
No.
Well, why would the judge take your receipts for the tire?
Because he took all of our evidence at the end of the case.
No. The only reason a court would take your evidence is if you had a counterclaim for your damage.
I'm new to the court thing, so I didn't know to countersue. So when I had to file paperwork, so when I went to court on our court date, I was just letting the judge know, like, look, she did these damages to me. I didn't file a countersue claim. I didn't know I had to do that.
The judge looked at it and didn't return that to you?
He said any evidence that we wanted to be taken into consideration to leave it with him, and I left it with him.
And what kind of tires did you purchase?
I believe they say Bridgestone on them.
And what's the name, make and model of your car?
It's a 2005 Cadillac Escalade.
Can you get me any information about that, Sarah? Cost of cars, 2000 Escalade, what kind of tires it uses. Okay, so the harassment that you're talking about by your sister, because that's the other part of your claim. The vandalism is one, which Sarah is looking up now. The damages for harassment were the tires being slashed, is that right?
A part of it, yes.
Well, what's the other part?
Well, when I filed for the restraining order, the judge said it sounded like a family matter, so I didn't.
So the court dismissed it?
Yes. So on December 24th, which was Christmas Eve, I woke up and my tires were popped again. So I then asked my dad, is it okay if I record you reaching out to my sister, asking her to leave me alone so that if I do go to court again, I have some evidence? Because again, my dad didn't come to court. I was just like, okay, well, at that point, I didn't feel safe there no more because she had already called Children's Services on me. And then every 2 weeks, my tires were being popped. I really couldn't afford it.
I got it. Do you recall how much you spent for each tire?
Each tire was $120.
So you spent a little over $700?
Yes.
Okay.
That's about right from what I'm seeing.
Okay. So, Ms. Gaines, let me tell you how I'm going to rule on her request for damages for her car. But I believe that some things make sense and some things don't. And if somebody has an MO of slashing tires as their reaction to having their car damaged, and if you acknowledge doing it and doing it one time, it is not a giant leap from my imagination that you caused the same damage to all 6 of her tires. I don't find that a giant leap. I think the whole thing is foolish, and I actually don't see the basis for coming out with a broomstick except that you were angry and lashing out at her car. You could have stayed in your house and called the police. There was no reason for you to come out of the house at all, except to confront your sister. You had an application for a restraining order against your sister?
This is correct.
And you had a trial on that?
This is correct.
And you were granted a restraining order?
Yes.
For how long?
6 months.
And that expired?
It hasn't expired yet. This was an incident that was caused by her coming to my house after court.
Okay.
And causing more damage.
Okay. So I think that she had the right to file for a restraining order against you because part of your action is filing false restraining order. Part of your case was for vandalism to your car.
Plan games of slashing her tires. Joanne claims she needed to file a restraining order against Jessica.
Okay, let's get to the assault part of your claim that I would like to hear. First, I watched the video, and I have to tell you, Ms. Gaines, that in my judgment, what you took a big whiff of was a blunt. Is that what they call that?
That is.
Okay. And that's what was in the video, and that's while you were on your way over there and very, very angry and driving a car and lost in a sea of smoke. Do you understand? And I think that that's both foolish, bad judgment, dangerous to drive a car that way.
I agree, I'm sorry.
And shows an absolute lack of judgment. So I would think about that kind of behavior. Again, if I were you, you want to tell me when and under what circumstances your sister assaulted you and where you were hospitalized or treated medically?
When I pulled up to the house, she had asked me to jump out of the vehicle.
How did she ask you to jump out of the vehicle?
She was standing on the sidewalk. I was putting the car in park, and she stated, hop out And I said, okay, I guess
Well,
we're
that was
hopping
sort of silly. If somebody said to you, hop out, I would stay in the car.
I'm trying to talk to my dad. I have a...
Okay. Well, you talk to your dad later when things have calmed down and you're not high on weed.
I understand that you...
You got the damages for your car by way of a judgment. I've awarded you for the tires $726. $726 for the tires. That's the judgment of the court. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I only slashed her tires one time, one tire, like I stated. It was fair. There's no receipts that were presented, so they were never damaged.
We got it. We got the proof, so.
She stated that I ran her over by the car, but she was walking back into her house. How are you walking if your foot got ran over by a car?
It's embarrassing.
Jealousy, maybe I don't feel that way. This is my younger sister. I love my younger sister. I wish that this wasn't even...
So, my Sarah, the case to me, we've seen it before, siblings fighting, very unfortunate. So I'm going to ask you a question, because I know I come from a separate generations, 3 down from you.
Okay.
And I've already accepted the fact that many states in this country have voted in favor of legislation which suggests that marijuana is a legal substance and decriminalizing it. Fine, just like alcohol. Yeah. That's what my grandchildren tell me. You drink alcohol, we do something else. But am I crazy? Because I watched that video, and to me that was the most interesting part of the video. And then she took this big cigar thing, which I found out what those were called back in my family court days, and it's interesting that I could recall it, called a blunt. Tell me what you think. Would it be no different if she took a big bottle of vodka from the passenger seat and took a couple of swigs before she got to a fight?
Yeah.
Okay, I want your take on that.
Yeah, even as a different generation, there's responsibilities and regulations and rules, the same with alcohol. So while it might be legalized, decriminalized in many states, you still have to follow the rules and act responsibly. I think there are different physiological effects.
Would you say that there was any jurisdiction in this country where you could smoke marijuana while you were driving?
I think it's still considered under the influence, which is just as bad as driving under the influence of alcohol. So I think it impairs your judgment all the same. And showing up to a fight high, I think, is equivalent to showing up drunk. And
even if you were going to a party.
Yeah, you're behind the wheel of tons of weight and something that could be used as a deadly weapon. So you got to be as sharp as you can.
Yeah, just from this interaction, you're absolutely right legally. But I'm not...
All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2177, Bazine versus Adams.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Bazine, you had a job as a dental assistant. Is that right?
Yes.
And you went to school for that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where did you go to school?
Medical Institute.
Did you graduate?
Yes.
I gather you didn't like it.
No.
I say that because you didn't stay in that career path for very long. Just for my own curiosity, I come from a long family of dentists. Tell me why you didn't like being a dental assistant. Had to be a reason.
Cleaning people's teeth and having them fight you and tell you that they don't have cavities when they do.
You didn't like the whole experience?
Yeah, all the explaining you have to do.
Okay, got it. Wasn't for you.
No.
You've got it in your hip pocket should you ever need it again. Right?
Yeah.
You have the degree. In any event, the defendant was a patient of yours. She came in as a patient?
Yes.
And you got to know each other, according to you. And she offered you a job at a place that she manages. You manage a store? What kind of store?
It's in a plant store, so we sell scratch and dent appliances.
When was that?
Oh, geez. This had to have been in May.
May of 2022?
Correct.
Is that when you started working in the store?
I started July 3rd.
That was your start date? And what were your duties?
Sales rep. She taught me how to sell the scratch and dent appliances, how to run the store, and help her manage it. I was making more commission, so I did take the job besides the dental office.
So you worked in the dental office too?
No.
You left the dental
I left the dental office so I could pursue more.
Okay. And you did make more money?
Yes.
There came a time, according to what I read in the complaint, that you, Miss Adams, asked the plaintiff to do...
We're at home lunch because they were on school break. She offered to go.
How old are your children?
16, 13, and 10. She offered to go in my place that she wanted a break. She clocked out for her lunch. I gave her money to go, 1, pick up the food, and 2, a little bit of gas money. She then went to my house.
Just a minute, we're not there yet. She clocked out for her lunch break.
I was clocking out of work.
Shh. And you're the store manager?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long do you get for a lunch break?
An hour.
That's an hour during the day. That's yours.
Correct.
Now, from the store where she clocked out, to the place where she was supposed to pick up lunch for your children, how far was that? Because you said you gave her gas money, so it wasn't around the corner.
15 minutes away.
And how far from this place where she got the food is your house?
Right down the road.
5 minutes.
Not even 2.
2 minutes, 17 minutes. And then she's got to get back.
Correct.
So that's almost 40 minutes.
Correct.
Out of her 1 hour lunch. So she was doing you a favor.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why don't you just say that? So you made me go through this whole exercise. It was more than half her lunch. I gave her 15 minutes for lunch. she was doing you a favor.
Yes, ma'am.
Did she ask you to do her this favor?
Yes.
Tell me how she asked you to do her this favor.
Wouldn't go through when we were ordering the food. I was already on my way home. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so I was ready to go. She said, go ahead, here's some money, deliver the food to the children. Thank you for your help.
Did you have to pick up the food?
Yes.
Okay, she gave you money.
The drive-through sat home anyway.
Oh, so step back. Step back. Did you order food
I
to send
did,
to your
and it
kids?
did not go through.
Okay, so you ordered food to get there. And this was lunchtime.
Correct.
And how did you find out that they canceled?
They sent me a notification to my phone.
To your phone?
Correct.
And what time was that?
1 o'clock, 1:15.
Had you already taken your lunch break?
No, ma'am. Most days I do not.
So you're in the store all day?
I am.
Well, then it would seem to me she had to find out that they canceled because you said that they sent the note to you.
We work right next to one another.
I know, she wasn't looking over at your phone.
Right.
She wasn't looking over at your phone. If you work right next to each other, common sense would dictate you said something, oh, whatever. Well, what expletive you used, they canceled my order.
Correct.
Could you take stuff to my kids for lunch?
I was going to do it. She offered.
I want you to tell me exactly what you said. You say you stay in the store all day. Now you thought about it and you thought about your defense and you did in fact according to you. Just remember something, because here's $20. Would you take the food, drop it off to the children? And in addition, voila, you said to her,
please do not go in my house. My dog is aggressive.
Mila Bazin blames her former employer, Sarah Adams, owes for injuries from a dog bite. Sarah is countersuing for harassment and slander.
I want you to tell me exactly what you said. You say you stay in the store all day.
Yes.
Okay.
But on
and
this-
she was ready to leave.
No, so she was leaving for her lunch.
No.
I was going to leave and take the kids' food. Mila stated she wanted to go out of the store. She needed a break. So I told her, okay, if you want to clock out.
She was doing me a favor because I wanted to get my 16-year-old lunch that she couldn't get for herself.
Correct.
Well, that she couldn't walk around the corner and get for herself, or open the freezer and put in a toaster. Right?
Right.
Okay. So you had one of your subordinates go to your house and deliver the food. That's the bottom line. You had one of your subordinates, because you were in the store where you stay all the time. You had one of your subordinates, gave her $20. Here's a little gas money for you. Go pick up the food and bring it to the house. By the way, your 16-year-old doesn't get around?
No, she's not driving it.
She walks.
Correct, but I don't like my children to leave the house.
In the middle of the day, 1 o'clock?
Correct.
Okay.
Not in this world that we live in.
Okie dokie. Anyway, here's $20. Thank you. Did you say anything else to her?
No.
Has she ever been to your house before?
Not at that time, no.
Prior to giving her money and say, could you pick up the food and drop it off, she had not been to your house before.
Correct. I did state to her before she left.
Just a second. She had not been to your house before.
Correct.
Now you thought about it and you thought about your defense, and you did, in fact, according to you. Just remember something, because here's $20. Would you take the food, drop it off with the children? And in addition, voila, you said to her,
please do not go in my house. My dog is aggressive.
And that's
I
why
did tell her to call me when she got there. I would call my daughter, have her go out and get the food. And Your Honor, I do have a video of my Ring doorbell of what happened.
I'm going to watch that.
Okay.
Because what happened was there was a lot of food.
I told her, do not go in my house.
And she was bitten by your pit bull.
Yes, in my home.
She wasn't trespassing in your house, madam. She wasn't burglarizing your house. She was bitten by your pit bull. That's
Right,
what the
but she
case
was
is about.
She was told not to go into my house.
If I believe you.
I have evidence.
I'm going to look at it. Okay. If I believe you, whether I believe you or not, she was bitten in your house by your dog. How old is your pit bull?
7 years old.
Where did you get her?
From the pound.
So you went to get food. You took your car and you went to get food. And you picked up how many bags of food for the 3 children?
There's at least, I think, 2 bags, or 1 big bag, and then 2 drinks. 3 drinks in total. I had to carry 1 drink back in behind April. I should have waited in the car.
Now, why should you have waited in the car? Why?
Now that I've bitten, I say that.
Well, what would have made you think that you should be waiting in the car?
No reason.
Did Miss Adams say to you when you left,
No, Your Honor.
text me when you get there, my daughter will come out?
Yes, to make it easier for me, but not because she told me she had a killer dog.
Did she tell you she had any dog?
No, I knew of one little dog, her little Mookie, her baby Chihuahua dog.
Your Honor, I bring a dog with me to work every day.
That you just got while I was working there.
Just a second. Don't interrupt. She said she knew of one little dog, a Pekingese. That's all you knew about.
I knew of her Chihuahua at the time. The Pekingese came later. She inherited her dad's dog, but all I knew of was her little Mookie Chihuahua. I also have a Chihuahua. I thought we both had Chihuahuas. I would not go to anyone's house if they had a killer pit bull. Pit bulls, period.
Okay, you picked up the food, you got to the house, what did you do?
April came out to the car, grabbed what she could. I had the remainder drink. I got up and followed Miss April inside the house. Once we got to the door.
Is April the 16-year-old?
Yes.
That's you.
Once she stepped inside, I stepped in behind her. She turned around to grab it. And
No. None of them?
No.
And do you live in a rural area, or are there stores there?
There's some stores down
What
two
kind
streets.
of, yeah, what kind of stores?
A grocery store.
Yeah. So if you wanted to and you were hungry, you would have gone to the grocery store and gotten something for lunch. It's not an answer.
Yes.
So on that day, let me make sure what day we're talking about here. July 18th. On July 18th, you and your siblings were home for the day?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about the conversation you had with your mother about ordering lunch.
My siblings were hungry and wanted something new, so I asked my mother.
You called your mother at work?
Yes, I called my mother at work to ask if she can order some food.
What time did you call your mother?
It was around 1.
And that's all you said to her? And what did your mother say?
She said yeah.
She said yes, but she must have also said, what do they want? I mean, they didn't want to go to the grocery store, so she said, what do you want?
She said, I can order McDonald's. And I said, that's fine.
She said, I can order McDonald's, and?
And I said, that's great. That's okay. Thank you for doing that.
Okay. Now, she called you later to tell you that they had canceled the order.
Yes.
Yes. And what did she say when she said they canceled the order?
She said that Mila was coming over to drop off the food, and she already told her about...
No, don't make things up as we're going. Be very careful when you talk to me.
Yeah.
She said Mila is on her way over with the food.
Yes.
Now, Mila came over, she pulled her car up in front of your house.
Yeah.
And by step, she got out of the car?
No.
She stayed in the car?
Yes.
And you took a bag?
I took all I could, 2 bags and a drink.
Okay, but that wasn't all the food there was?
Yes, I told her I would come back for the rest.
Did she say that to
No,
you?
Your Honor.
I didn't hear you say to her when she turned around, stay out there. I didn't hear you say that to her. Do you understand? I didn't hear you and I heard everything. Say that to her. She had one drink that she was going to give you and she actually leaned over to give it to you.
Mila Bazin is accusing her former employer, Sarah Adams, of refusing to pay for injuries caused by her pit bull. Sarah claims Mila already agreed to a $300 settlement.
Now, she got out of the car?
No.
She stayed in the car?
Yes.
And you took a bag?
I took all I could, 2 bags and a drink.
Okay, but that wasn't all the food there was?
Yes, I told her I would come back for the rest.
Did she say that to
No,
you?
Your Honor. I was just nice and got out of the car and followed her.
Yeah, you didn't have that much of a discussion. It doesn't make sense that you had that much. So there was a drink left?
Yes.
So she was walking and following you with the one drink?
No.
She didn't follow you into the house with the one drink?
Not until later.
What do you mean not until later? What happened in between the fact that you grabbed the food and 2 drinks, there was a drink left, now she's out of the car?
I didn't realize she was out of the car. I thought she would stay on the car. So I'm walking over to the house to open the door.
Okay. Now, I want you to point to some place in this room where the car was and where your front door was. Make believe I'm the car. Point to some place in this room. If it has to be more, you can say it's twice that distance. Twice the distance from the front and the back of the courtroom, or half the distance, or it's the same distance. How far is it from the car?
Far away.
Where?
Where those...
So maybe 20 feet.
Yes.
Now I'm going to look at your video.
Oh my God.
Give me a towel. I'm so sorry. Give me a towel. I didn't hear you say to her when she turned around, stay out there. I didn't hear you say that to her. Do you understand? I didn't hear you and I heard everything. Say that to her. She had one drink that she was going to give you and she actually leaned over to give it to you as you were in the door. I didn't hear you say anything to her. Stay outside, don't come near here. That's a long walk. I didn't hear you. Is that because you didn't say it?
No, before the video, when I went to get, she was inside the car.
We're going to hear it again. We're going to go right from the beginning. I heard you speak to your brothers. You turn around, you saw her walking in after you. Anyway, Miss Bazin, as a result of this dog bite, According to you, you had some serious medical issues. It became infected, couldn't work for a period of time. Do you have any of the medical records?
Yes.
I'd like to take a look at them.
I have them, the bill and the records. You want the records?
Yeah, both.
Color coordinated white paper clips.
Does the job that you had give you health insurance?
So I have access with Arizona, and they pay a percentage of it, but not everything.
Do you have what is left over that is your
So they wouldn't give me until the end of the year, I guess, but that's what they billed me, and they keep calling me every day saying I have.
Your Honor, I have a text message from Mila saying that she had unlimited health insurance
That's what
and
I
they can
thought.
bill her for whatever she wants. I would like
Before I
to
knew I
present
was
that
going
for
into
you.
surgery.
Let's try not to talk to each other.
Also, Mila went to the hospital 4 times, and I have records of all of that and what they did each time per her text messages.
Yeah.
And I have pictures of the bite when it happened if you'd like to see that as well.
She has it. You don't have to prove her case. I'm sure you have pictures.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sure. How long were you on antibiotics?
For at least almost like 2 months off and on. I had to go back multiple times and have it.
That you have, is the company aware of the fact that you had a pit bull?
Yes, and it is extremely hard to find a place to rent with a pit bull.
No, I didn't ask you that. I asked you whether your insurance, your renter's insurance, had a provision that excluded the insurance from a pit bull bite.
I do not recall, no.
What state do you live in?
Arizona.
What's the name of the company?
It's through our insurance. On the car, it's... And I'm not 100%.
Did you notify them of this dog bite?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because she even said it was her fault.
It wasn't her fault. It was your fault. You had the dangerous animal.
How is it my fault?
Just a
I
second.
told her not to go in the house.
Don't ask me any questions, madam, and I'm going to tell you something. Based upon that video, there's no indication that you told her, don't go into my house.
I told her at work.
Listen to me. Based upon what I saw, if you knew that you had a dog that was territorial and she shouldn't go into the house, then you, when you speak to your daughter who is too lazy to go to the grocery store, say to her, I have one of my employees that I'm sending with your food, which is exactly what happened. You would have said to her, make sure that you take the stuff from the car. And she wouldn't have, unless she's an idiot, she wouldn't have, when she saw the plaintiff coming up with the extra drinks, she would have said, do me a favor, just stay out here, put them down on the shelf where I put the other drinks. Don't walk into the house. She said nothing. She walked into the house and in effect held the door open so that she could deliver the other 1 or 2 drinks for your children. That's
तो वीडियो बनाइंदा पिया मैं गट्टू खोल गया भाई वसीम तो जनाब साहब ए आवे हुण दे झोली भरते ते ए 3 किलियां नु एक पूरा नेटरो दा गट्टू पाउंदा भी है पूरा तो कने रखा साड़ने जा साड़ी कपा ते आ एडी एडी कपा होई पई है हां वे गट्टू दे चुके ने पे कपा साड़ने जा साड़ी ते नारी पानी लगा खलोता भाई चोपड़ा तो ना जरम सी ना ये सारी हिक्के साड़ देसे अद्धी पा ली है चे 3 किले पूरी करनी है हाँ देख ला भाई पूरी